Hello and a warm welcome here out of the Japanese Suzuka. I'm here with, of course, Scott Wilde, Thomas Mooney, whatever he likes to call him, and we are back here at FSR for the, well, almost final race of the season. We are already arriving to the back stages of the season, but certainly not no tears spilled here, because we got a major race coming up here. We are all expecting a fight, a clear-up fight between Morgan Morant and Bono Huis, aren't we, Thomas?
We are indeed, and that was very, very good. I think you ought to do that in future, that intro. Yes, we're here this weekend, and yeah, it's the title fight. We're going down probably to the wire. There is a chance, actually, that Morgan Moran could wrap it up today, but given that he's only 10 points ahead, myself and Chris have just been talking before, and we think that's probably unlikely. At the moment, 10 points ahead, so if we look at the various connotations that could happen this weekend. Yeah. What do you think, Chris? Not a good race for Morgan last time out, and that's why we find ourselves in this situation where it's a little bit more close going into the end of the season, which of course is great for us as viewers.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. For us viewers' perspective, it's definitely the most exciting thing this year. In terms of Morante's championship perspective, that last race was definitely a disaster. Not in terms of his driving, but surely his internet provider having a disconnect. That was really really awful. Although, in terms of disconnections, I believe it's 1-1 or 2-2. At least it's tied between Morgan and Bono. So yeah, let's see. I'm just hoping for a great fight, and I want to see these guys head on to each other. Pole position would be a major factor here, because overtaking in the dirty air, like we all know this weekend, it didn't prove significant. But yeah, so qualify would definitely be something to take a look at.
Yeah, and if we look at the live timing at the moment, Bono Huis's first lap in Q1 was not particularly good. At the moment, he's outside the top 10. I imagine that he will improve on that. We've actually got Martin Gosby at the top of the timing sheets at the moment, Chris, looking strong this weekend, and we know that he's somebody who can take the fight to Moran and Huis. That might just get in the way of that championship battle a little bit.
Well, if you have the pace, then you're certainly not in the way.
Very true indeed, but it's just one more thing that they have to think about. Of course, Gosby, with no championship to fight for, he can go all out for this win, whereas Moran and Huis perhaps have to think a bit more subjectively with regard to the championship.
Yeah, indeed. Martin is more like, okay, I don't have anything on stake. I can dive in this gap, and you basically have to make way for me. With a realistic gap, speaking, of course. And he has nothing to lose, only maybe a race victory. And of course, with a race victory, yeah, I mean, let's just see how it goes. At the moment, I do believe we are into Q1 indeed, with Martin, like you said, leading the pack. And someone that I am really curious into watching is David Greco. Since he took over the Twister Racing team entirely, he is basically he has grown some wings or something. He's so much faster the last few weeks than the beginning of his re-entry into FSR, and that's just nice to see a name like that.
It is. Bono Huis on a better lap at the moment, instead of 31.6 in the first sector, so this should see him comfortably into the top 10 when he reaches the end of that particular lap. Morgan Moran has gone fastest of all in the first sector with a 31.530, so that's looking good as well. As Martin Gosby now sets the fastest last sector. So his last, it was just shy actually by 300ths of a second of his best time, but nevertheless a better last sector, so he can improve. We've seen that. Bono Huis goes up into fourth then on a 1:31.668, so that's an awful lot closer to the front, but still a couple of places behind Morgan, and all these points could be crucial, especially going into the last race at the Circuit of the Americas. They want to be as Huis will want to be as close as possible to Moran. Really, he needs to beat Moran here, otherwise he's going to need some mistakes.
Moran takes the first time at this moment, 31.423. It's just a few thousandths of seconds faster than Gosby, but it's just a matter of thousands in this Q1 session for the top. I don't think that the 2/10 gap that that Morgan has over Bono is that significant. I mean, it's that little bit of a mistake or the lose of traction. It has to come down on that one and only lap into Q2 who will perform better. And after last week with Morgan having the disconnect, I'm sure he would be, you know, thrilled to take a win here. Not only in terms of the championship, but yeah, I mean, being robbed like that from your points because of a disconnect it's never something you want to experience. But yeah, unfortunately, these things happen, and I hope, like you all do, that nobody gets a DC and Morgan can redeem himself. But he has to fight for it. He really has to fight for it. Q2 will be so important here, and the guy who will take pole position, yeah, would definitely be looking strong for a race win. This has been into Ace, this has been the case into Pro, and I don't think it will be any different into World Championship.
Yeah, certainly. Norbert Leitner looking very good up there in the top 10 at the moment on a 1:31.8. That's impressive from him. And Patrick de Wit, he's been struggling recently, Chris, hasn't he? I mean, we've seen this a lot from Patrick. He's had maybe one race recently where he was not so bad. I think that was Monza. But otherwise, Patrick has been having some rather different weekends of late.
Yeah, rather sad, a difficult season. Of course, Patrick de Wit, the T-Rex dinosaur that he is, he has been here since 2007. But yeah, I'm sure he just has some mod adjustment problem. He has always been into Q2, almost always in RPEC 1, and maybe it's just a new mod, new season that will, yeah, will is catching him out a little bit at the moment. But I don't think it's anything to be worrying about. However, what is worrying is that Ivar Calabrese is not up to Q2 again. Did he cross the finish line before that? Yeah, he did. Okay, so he's at 9th place now. Just made that barely, but we still got some people coming across the finish line, including Peter Briljak. And Briljak actually improves, and this means that Calabrese is now on P10 once more. He just has to pray that Patrick de Wit or Jon-Erik Saxon or whoever is gonna is able to do another lap in won't push him off P10. This would be so disappointing for Jack. Or for Ivar.
It would, although Jon-Erik Saxon was faster than him through that first sector by about 0.05 of a second on what he needs to be for 10th place. So at the moment, it's all down to Jon-Erik Saxon's last two sectors. The second sector is a little bit slower, so this is going to be up to the third sector.
Well, here he comes over the finish line. Will Jon-Erik Saxon do it? He will not. So the Epic Chronic Racing car will remain, or he actually gained 2 places, but it will remain in 13th for now. And this means that Patrick de Wit is the only one that can make this happen, but he is already off his own time, and he has to improve with half a second this last sector, which is not gonna happen. So Patrick de Wit wobbling around and actually goes to the pit. And as drivers are making their way in for their last turn, right, I think we have our top 10.
Yeah, we certainly do. So that top 10 then is Morgan Moran, Martin Gosby, David Greco, Bono Huis, Jim Paresis, Peter Berliak, Norbert Leitner. Great performance by him, just over 0.4 off the fastest time. Rob van Starkenburg, Jenny Szymancic and Ivar Calabrese, they will go through to Q2 and they will have 1 lap each, as per usual, to set times to get pole position. That's ultimately what they're battling for.
So Alvaro Torres missing out on Q2 with 26 thousandths of a second. So that last improvement on that last try that Ivar had is really proving significant this time around. I mean, he should be happy he's here. Although I don't know how he will do in Q2. Obviously, he's the first one to set a lap. And as the lights are going green, we are waiting for Ivar to make his way onto the track. To be the first, and there he goes. So who are you looking out for today? Apart from Bono and Morgan, obviously everyone is watching to them. But who do you think, Thomas, that can turn some heads around this race?
Well, I think Greco would be a good bet. I mean, he's finished second here before in the past. He's not competed in recent years, but Suzuka is a track that he has shown form on before, and we can see from Q1 that he's up there in third place. And obviously, we've got to watch out for Martin Gosby as well. But it's impressive to see Norbert Leitner so high up. I mean, he had some problems in the Ace race yesterday, but he was very fast. So certainly, he's going to be one that they're going to have to keep an eye on as well, because he's not that far away from the top guys. I mean, we're talking here on 0.4 of a second. It's a small amount.
Relatively small amount. I would correct you on that, but yeah, he's doing a fantastic job, and with him being with qualifying for Q2 so relatively easy, we'll put my eyes on him, that's for sure. Other than that, it's basically the usual suspects into the top 10, and I am so looking forward to this race. And I hope you all join me in that, because there's a lot at stake here. I mean, Bono House has been the world champion for the past 4 years. Morgan Morant is leading the championship now with only 10 points, because he didn't score any points last race, obviously. And well, the battle is completely open, and Bono has everything to lose, and Morgan has everything to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, just based on that, Moran, if he finishes first today, Weiss needs to finish 5th or lower. Second, Weiss needs to finish 9th or lower. And if Moran finishes 3rd, then Weiss needs to be out of the points. That's for the team to wrap up the championship. It's not going to happen, I don't think.
I don't think so too. Let's just hope on some clean, good old racing. For now, though, it's time for Ivar Kalamees to shine, and he's already made his way up through the S's. Thurman through there. And Control finds some really nice lines, and early on the throttle here, so he can fully go on the throttle in this nice uphill left bend. And he's looking really controlled, Ivar.
Yeah, certainly is. It's really, the tyres are crying enough the whole way around this track. It's got so many fast turns. It really is a punishing track on tyres. And Ivar Kalamees on the medium compound this weekend, the white sidewall tyre that you can see there, and it's looking very neat and tidy so far from him as he comes into Spoon. Difficult corner this, Chris. See how he looks?
The double apex is clearly catching out some drivers, not Ivar though. Had a little bit of oversteer coming out of that corner, but didn't compromise his exit that much. Maybe loses half a tenth or 1/10. 42.304 is his second sector time, and now it's just a run towards the finish. And let's see what Ivar can do. Here he comes, early on the throttle. Chooses the closest for the fastest line through the finish, and it's a 31.818. So that is definitely a nice Q2 time for that lap. I do think. It wasn't perfect, but I mean, as a racing driver, what is a perfect lap? There's almost no such thing. I think he can be relatively satisfied.
Yep, certainly can. Wasn't a bad lap at all. It was very nice and neat and tidy. So next, on to his flying lap then.
Yeah, it's Journey Simonsic.
It is indeed, and Simonsic, he's had an up and down season. He's been sometimes very much near the front in Q2, sometimes not, sometimes a lot further back. It's been one of those up and down seasons for Go Speed, to be honest, all round. It looks pretty nice through the S's so far.
Yeah, but he's definitely slow. He took some other and wider lines and compromising lines than Ivar did, and I would be amazed if it would be...
It's a quicker first sector, Chris.
It's quicker first sector, then I'm amazed. I'm really amazed. What did I with Ivar? I mean, Journey did a lot of speed with the fifth gear there, having had great gear ratios. Only, you know, he went so much off the throttle where Ivar was just flat. So really amazing stuff then. Let's see how we handle Spoon. Here we go. Tursion really early. And tidy lines. Doesn't have that oversteer that Ivar had. Will it be a better sector 2? 42.3 to aim for. It's 42.6, so he loses 3/10 alone on that sector. And he really needs to step it up this last bit. Here we go. That's one chicane, two chicanes. Onto the throttle. Will he do it? For a provisional pole, Jarno Simonsic, he will not. 32.222. So he definitely lost out that last sector, and also especially even in the second sector.
Yeah, it was a good first sector, but didn't quite manage to grab it back in sectors 2 and 3. But as you mentioned, Chris, off the throttle a little bit in sector 1 as well, so there's definitely some time to be gained there by other drivers. Rob van Starkenburg, the next one then into a flying lap, and really attacks the first turn as he now heads up through these iconic S's. Everyone loves these corners, they really are. For the brave, you have to manage to hang it out, and he certainly is doing that as he goes through those corners, now up through Dunlop towards the end of sector 1, which comes just before the Degners. Again, another couple of famous corners down here where we've seen numerous incidents over the years.
Yeah, and talking back to the S's, I mean, as a racing driver, we all know that if you take the first one bad, the last one is gonna go bad as well. It's a continuous flow, and Rob Sherlock van Starkenborg is doing a great job in being fast on the pace. 31.825 his first sector, and that is the fastest we have seen into Q2. And let's hope he keeps it together.
Yep, so he's looking for a 42.3 then through the second sector. That was what Calamy's going. He runs a little bit wide over the exit there, kicks up some of the dust. That won't have cost him too much time, but it may just cost him just a few hundredths of a second. Let's see as he goes through sector 2 what the time is. A 42.5, so it's a couple of tenths shy of Calamy's. You wonder if maybe that was lost in Spoon as he comes down now to the Casio Triangle chicane and really attacks the curb there over the inside, heads towards the line, but I think this is probably going to be second place. It should be ahead of Simoncic. Let's have a look as he comes across the line. 31.968, so it is second.
Yeah, you were right about that. And well, it looked tidy. Unfortunately, he made a mistake there, and tried to compromise with short shifting, which did compromise it a little bit. But yeah, he almost got it. He was with two tires onto the curbs, but almost lost the car as well. Nevertheless, a professional second time for him at the moment, and it's now time for Norbert Leitner to shine. Ooh, a lot of oversteer coming out of first corner. Find some great momentum here through the S's. And
yeah,
really is
very good.
Yeah, he didn't brake. He just eases off the throttle. Here a little bit as well, 95% throttle, and instantly floors it again. How will that translate into his time? It's 31.7. So that's the fastest we have seen. Norbert Leitner, what are you showing us? Oh,
he's on fire this weekend, isn't he?
Yeah, he sure is. He sure is. And he obviously had his chance because our favorite guy, favorite Dutchman, Marcel van der Linden, who doesn't know him, right? He wasn't. It wasn't possible for him to race today. That's why Norbert is stepping in for the second time this weekend. For you guys that are wondering, but he already did race a race this week. That's correct. Nevertheless, will that one mistake in under the bridge will that cost him? It's oh yeah, it will cost him severely. 42.501 second sector.
So Calamy's then clearly, this is going to be close actually, because he was 2 tenths faster in the first sector and lost 2 tenths in the middle sector, so it's going to be very close with Ivar Calamy's. Yeah. Let's see as he goes across the line if he manages to gain it back in the third sector then.
I'm sure he will.
31.9, so it's second.
And it's the second. Yeah, great lap from Norbert, apart from that that one and only major mistake. But I think he would be really happy to put his car in front of Jeremy and Rob.
Yeah, I think he will. I think you're right. And clearly then, Calamy's very fast in that middle sector, which is something that we're going to have to look out for, because everybody so far has been slower than him in that middle sector, but they've all been faster than him in the first sector as well. So perhaps a different setup going on there.
Obviously, but let's see if we talk about a different setup. Here's the Twister Racing team. Definitely the team that made a lot of improvements this year and are winning races. And like I said with Greco, they are just they just found a new life, a new fresh breeze into the team, and I think everyone is enjoying that at the moment, as we have seen Twister so strong these last few weeks, and Peter Briljak is no exception on that matter. Isn't finding the lines that he needs through here. However, 31.755 is first sector time. So without a perfect sector, he even puts the fastest first sector on the board. So this is looking promising for Twister.
Yeah, just a few thousandths slower than Leitner's first sector, but nevertheless a great first sector by Peter Berliak, faster than anybody else that has gone through there so far. As he heads up towards Spoon, it really is a brilliant track this. The figure of 8 layout really does create something totally unique, because you have quite a lot of left-hand turns as well as right-hand turns. There's no bias towards one or the other because of that layout, and that really gives a unique challenge to the drivers and to the tyres as well. As he comes through the middle sector then now, can he match Calames through that middle sector? He's a lot closer, 42.4. It's just a 10th down then on Calames, a 10th and a half in fact, so it's still quite a bit slower than Calames, but he might be able to jump ahead of him on the timing screens. Let's see as he comes across the line through the final corner and down towards straight. He doesn't straight line it as much as some of the other drivers, and he goes second, 31.902. So once again, Calames losing out in the first sector, but then the other drivers can't keep up with him through the rest of the lap.
Yeah, surprisingly, to be honest, because and I don't mean it offensive towards Ivar, but when we looked at this lap, it didn't look like a pole position lap. But here we are, half of the pack is gone, and he's still at first position. Now it's turn of the other Twister racing car. It's Jim Paresis, and I come back on Twister, to be honest. I mean, we're all focusing a little bit too much now on Bono and Morgan Morant of the championship. Wouldn't it be such a stab in the back for us if Twister would just take a 1, 2, 3, 4 here with both their cars and teams, and you know, they would Sparty of everyone else. Personally, that's what I'm saying, but let's just follow Jim on this lap. 31.635 per sector. Well, that's no commentator curse coming up. Twister really looking in shape here. They did their homework brilliantly, and it's such a nice circuit to do your homework on.
Yeah, it certainly is. You really do need to do your homework round here, because it's one of those tracks. I remember a Formula 1 driver once saying about this place, you never ever get a perfect lap round here. You always make a mistake somewhere. So it's just a case of minimising those mistakes as much as you can. Jim Paresis is looking pretty good so far. There was an amazing first sector. And the 1, 2, 3, 4 for Twister is not certainly beyond the realms of possibility. They're all in Q3, and Q2 rather. And as he goes through the middle sections of 42.2, so that's faster than Calames as well. So this is a very, very good lap.
He's gonna take provisional pole position if he doesn't mess up in this last part, which I highly doubt. And he does. Let's see. Is it jaw dropping? 31.600. Wow. Well, didn't drop my jaw there, but definitely, definitely some improvement of Ivar. Almost 2.5 tenths. What an amazing lap. And talking about tensions, Bono here, on starting his flyer now, the still reigning world champion, defending his crown and his title, and he will feel the pressure like no other. And ooh, Bono a little bit too far out of position into turn 1. Ooh, Bono, this is... If this is gonna be faster than Ivar or Jim, I'm gonna eat my keyboard. Seriously. Let's see.
Here we go then. Moment of truth for Chris, because otherwise his fillings are going to be needed from the dentist. It's a 31.881. It's an awful first sector actually. So you were right, Chris. He's a good 3/10 down on Paresis. That is, and he's a bit leery out of there as well, out of the second Degner. He kicked up some dust on the exit of there, and he's out of shape into the hairpin. This is a messy lap from Bono Huys.
Yeah, the unbalance in his car is real.
Very unusual for him.
Yeah, clearly he isn't making that many mistakes. You should think that it's the car with not the best balance, but yeah, good through Spoon. Up here he loses momentum as well. He had to brake in the middle of the corner because otherwise he would go on towards the grass, or at least run wide. How will this translate in his sector 2 time? 42.6, the slowest one yet.
Yeah, Bono, this is not good. He might even be going towards the bottom of the top 10 here, you know. Unless he can absolutely blitz this final sector. This is not going to be a particularly good lap, and he's going to pit.
He's gonna pit indeed. He doesn't even want to know the time.
Well,
and he is experienced enough to know that this was not a world championship champion performance. However, it has been a year now. It was Suzuka 2013 where Bono made his last pole position, and unfortunate to say, it's not going to happen this year around. And he is starting most likely on 10th spot. Who's not likely to start on the
Championship.
P10? Yeah, championship.
Because if Morgan wins, he needs to finish 5th. So there's some work to be done here for Bono Huys. And this year, his qualifying hasn't been as strong as his race performances. I think
No, but P10, you would never expect that from the start of the race. Bono, always top 3, top 5 max. You know, this was clearly, really disappointing qualify for him. And let's see if he can improve in the race. Now though, it's David Greco, who obviously wants to surprise us here. Look at that sheer determination, but also the grip on the car, the balance on the car. It's completely a different world to Bono. 31.627 in Sector 1, and he finds himself a much better exit on that previous corner. Now towards the chicane, locks up slightly, but relatively quick onto the throttle. And this is looking terrific for David.
Certainly is. He was 7,000ths up on Jim Paresis in that first sector, so that is about as close as you like.
Yeah, but he's gaining so much time here. He's so much quicker than Paresis here, and with so much quicker, I mean 1 or 2 tenths. And it's let's see what he's gonna do here. It's at 41 now, 42.232.
So another 600ths then on Paresis, so there's about 700ths between them in this final sector. It's going to be all down to how Greco gets through Sector 3. I don't think he attacked the curbs as much as Paresis, but that might be cleaner, and that might gain him more time.
This is professional pole position right here. 31.447. David Greco, ladies and gentlemen, Twister Racing.
Excellent lap by Greco, and I tell you what, your Twister Racing 1, 2, 3, 4 might not be looking too bad at the moment because
oh my god, yeah,
there's only 2 cars left to go, and they're first, second, and fourth.
Oh my god.
And one of them is another Twister. So
Ernesto De Angelis is really gonna slap me for that one, I believe. But no. Here comes Martin Gosby though. Will he take pole position away from David Greco? That's the question. Martin Gosby definitely up for the task. In the same team, of course, as David, but yeah, will he be faster than his boss, than his team boss? Not looking so controlled and has to lift off middle of the corner. I think we are maybe looking at a 32.0 here in first sector, or is that a little bit too much?
Let's see, 31.8.
Yeah,
wow.
He's definitely off.
That's not particularly good, and unlike some of his teammates, he was not flat out through Degner 1 either. So struggling a little bit here, Martin Gosby, and some of the drivers that we'd normally expect to see at the front not looking quite so strong here. Bono Huys, first of all, having a messy lap, and now Martin Gosby as well.
Yeah, but it's the Suzuka curse. I mean, with Bono, his first corner went bad, and then his S's went a little bit bad. And you basically carry that feeling along the way. You already know this is not going to be a great lap. And it just, you know, it wasn't great. Nevertheless, Gosby with a 42.2 in this sector. So he managed to regain a little bit from that poor Sector 1. Not that I would do a 31.8 in Sector 1, but for his terms it's surely poor. Let's see, he crosses the finish line in 131.665, third spot at the moment.
Twister 1, 2, 3, 5.
Well, yeah, that's something. However, we still got your favorite French guy, Morgan Morand, ready for his, well, hopefully for him, pole position. I mean, it's basically a do or die for him. Especially with Bono Huys on P10. If Morgan can make this work and get pole position, he would be livid with that.
Yeah, by the way, we would Chris to Paris after this race to work on his French act. I do apologise for that. Morgan Morand goes through the first sector. He's looking good through the S's so far. And let's see what his first sector is then. Where does it compare with everybody else? It's a 31.6, so it's pretty fast. But it's only a 1.5 hundredths faster than Paresis.
Yeah, but not faster than Greco. That's the major part. It all has to be. Ooh, Morgan, what are you doing? You're locking up. Definitely a big lockup from Morgan, and there is going pole position to David Greco. I can already say that. I mean, Morgan is the quickest driver at the moment in FSR in terms of championship position, but this is definitely not the quickest lap. He got some sheer pace through here, and he tries to make up for it. Catches the car out a little bit on the rear, But this will not be pole position with that mistake. That definitely cost him half a second.
It's 3 tenths
42.526.
down in the middle sector on Greco, you're right. So the two championship contenders are feeling the heat, they're feeling the pressure, and they're making mistakes, and neither of them I don't think are going to be on the front row, let alone pole position.
Well,
let's see if Morgan Moran goes through. I think this is going to be about 4th. Let's see. It's 5th. 31.828. And so, Morgan Moran and Bono Huit, I don't think, how long is it since we didn't see either of them on the front row?
Well, long. And Morgan would say long. But no, it's definitely something that caught me out. I would definitely think that either Morgan, David Greco, and Bono in third spot would fight for this pole position. And Bono, of course, in third spot because he didn't have a pole position this year yet. Bono actually telling in the chat, Morgan, we suck. And we can all take a laugh on that. But yeah, this is really looking interesting. David Greco, Jim Paresis, Martin Gosby in that order. It's a twister front row, and with Martin Gosby behind that in third. So what a qualifier we have seen, and what a performance from David especially. Seriously, but David and Jim Paresis, well, they are the MVPs in this qualifier, that's for sure. That balance in that car, that was amazing. Like you had stability control on the high or something, I don't know.
Well, I have to say one thing. I think David Greco, I hope that he comes back next season, because the way he's ended this season, you would have to say he's got to be a championship contender for next year, because clearly. He should have won at Monza. We all believe that.
Yep.
And he won at Indianapolis, and here he is again on pole position at Suzuka, which we know is a driver's track. It's a track that really requires skill, and he is looking very, very strong at the end of the season. And if he comes back next year, well, there's certainly going to be a third championship contender in there. We're presuming, of course, that Moran and Huis are going to come back, but it really is bright for Greco for the future in FSR with regard to him as well. He's been around a long time, but he might actually be able to have a go at a championship next year, the way he's going.
I did talk with Bono the past few days, and I had a long conversation with him, and he actually told me that he's not, and don't take this word completely seriously, but he said he didn't yet know if he would be back last year. We all don't know, but yeah, nothing signed yet. So, but that's the same for a lot of these drivers. I mean, I personally don't know if Moran is gonna stay with Netrex next year. I certainly hope so. And but nothing is signed yet. And as long as nothing is signed, then nothing is certain. It's like real Formula One at the moment. We see that Vettel is leaving Red Bull, and instantly people are talking about Ferrari and what's going to happen. Although nothing is signed yet, you can assume it, but you never know for sure. Although I don't think that Bono is going to Netrex and Morgan is going to PM. That would definitely not happen.
No, I don't think that's likely. No. It's going to be an interesting race. Is this one? The problem is as well for these two that in actual fact, they both need to make positions up, and we know that it's not easy to do that around here. It's not an easy circuit to overtake. Having said that, I've heard a lot of people say that to me this weekend, but I always say to people with that 2005, Kimi Raikkonen came from 17th to win, so it must be able to overtake at some places.
But in real Formula One, you have, of course, real physics, and the physics in RF2 definitely have improved dramatically starting from last year in RF1. But, and that's a big but, a big round but, it's the dirty air that basically is troubling so many drivers in FSR. They already nerfed it a little bit, they already decreased the impact of the dirty air, but it's still not up there in realistic terms. And that's the pure reason why overtaking here is so hard. You have a few places. If you have a better exit at Spoon, for example, you can climb across, and you can maybe get a dive in and a try. But it's so hard when someone is driving in front of you with just half a second in front of you, and you are inside of his dirty air. So you have to compromise on your entry speed. And you have to compromise on your exit speed. With a better exit speed, you will never be able to catch the other guy unless you are driving with the wings 1-1. So It's interesting how these drivers are handling that. Gonna be really interesting.
Yeah, looking at guys who've been here on the podium in the past, I mean, the wins have been very much shared between Morgan Moran and Bono Huis. Huis with 3, Moran with 1 at this circuit in the past. David Greco has had podiums here in the past a long while ago. Ivar Calamise has, Jack Keithley has, but not that many of the current crop of FSR drivers have had podiums here. So we may see some new comers to the podium, certainly at Suzuka anyway this weekend. And it'd be interesting to see if Jim Paresis can get a podium in World Championship, because I don't really... Does he have one yet? I don't think he does.
I believe he did, but now I'm starting to doubt as well. I thought he did something in Canada or something. Or oh no, that was a completely other different. You're confusing me, Thomas. Confusing me. Nevertheless, he
as
is.
Always.
Nah, he's back for more. And sometimes even more than more, but that's a story that has already been covered up. Bono Huis actually being the fastest guy in the warm-up. Not many people already set a lap time, and I'm curious to see what the rest is going to do. It does seem that Bono is starting on the harder compound, so that's the hard tire for Bono. That's the tire where he's practicing on. So. It wouldn't be an unlogical decision. He starts from P10, he knows he has to do this strategically, and starting on the hard tire would give him an edge if something happens in the early stages of the race. But I wanna make clear, no disconnections for anyone here today, hopefully. So yeah.
Chris has ordered. Yes.
Yeah, so I ordered all you cheap
to all ISPs.
Freaking ISPs that only want to make money. Keep us online for today. And yeah, no, that's really bad. I have to be a little bit more serious today because there's a really serious race in front of us, and although I'm looking forward to it, the excitement is taking over a little bit. So is the pace of Morgan Moran, talking about taking over 36.4. Mind you, that is on the medium compound, which is the softer of the two. We have medium and hard today, like Thomas already pointed out, and Bono is doing it on the harder compound, so 8/10 in between.
I agree with Bono's strategy, actually. I think it's a good strategy, because in the past we've seen that in the early laps you don't necessarily gain as much lap time because you're often fighting with other cars at that point. So you maybe don't lose as much on the medium tyre as you normally would because everybody's battling, so they're not making the full use of their softer medium tyres. So I think Bono getting that out of the way is probably a very good idea, because then of course for the rest of the race he can have the tyre advantage over the other cars.
Yeah, and it's certainly not his best season, and I do think that Bono is like Fernando Alonso this year. I mean, he doesn't have the car to be on pole position. He does, however, have the skill to be in the championship contention and making the best out of everything. I mean, before this real Formula 1 season started, who would have thought that Kimi Raikkonen would be outclassed by this margin of Fernando Alonso? To be honest, I thought at first, like, Kimi is gonna make life so hard for him. He clearly didn't want it. But yeah, he never had to look back for Kimi. Really, although Kimi had a little bit of unfortunate races, he really outclassed him, and that's the same for Bono and Ivar this way. I mean, I don't want to compare them to Alonso and Kimi, but yeah, Bono still shows us and everybody that he has the edge in the precision, and he's the fastest guy there.
I think Bono would definitely be Kimi, because whenever we have heard from him in interviews, it's usually been quite short. So it does remind me a little bit of Raikkonen, although we don't hear from him in interviews very much, to be honest, because he didn't really do many, which perhaps is similar to Raikkonen as well. But anyway, Chris has just will be back with us shortly. He's just taking a quick break, having a lie down after all that excitement in qualifying, no doubt. And Morgan Moran looking good then in practice. Interesting that Norbert Leitner is currently up there in second place. We don't know at the moment, of course, what fuel they are running at this point, because they may be trying out different stints. You could probably tell that by the fact that there's 5 seconds from first to last in terms of times at the moment. So chances are that they're probably trying a few different fuel loads. Bono Huys has got some work to do, so has Morgan Moran though. At least the good news for Bono Huys is at the moment that despite him qualifying 10th, Morgan Moran needs to finish in the top 3 to have any chance of wrapping the title up this weekend. So that doesn't seem likely, given that he's starting 5th. Well, he may well finish in the top 3, but if he moves forward, chances are Bono will as well. Yeah,
we clearly didn't expect this, and nor did they, I believe. I mean, a 5th place for Morgan and a 10th place for Bono, and you almost never see Bono boarding his lap. But then again, I mean, these things happen. We're all human, and so are they, even though they always sometimes look alien. But yeah.
Well, we have the aliens out front. We have 4 aliens at the moment, which is, in my view, well, maybe 5.
Greco, the Italian-Brazilian alien.
Greco, Gosby, Huys, Moran. Anyone else you'd like to stick there in the alien group?
Ron Squire. And it's silent.
There. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Ron. It's all
realise
good.
He's
all good.
He's watching today.
Yeah, well,
gonna have heard
shout
his
out to
feelings
Ron.
big
Hi,
style.
Ron. But no, it's all love. It's all love. So Gosby, however, he's showing that he's on to the pace of Morgan as well. Look at that. Only 17,000 separating the two. And well, Gosby, after having won a race this year already, he is really looking stronger and stronger.
Our cameraman is currently completely off his job because unfortunately he started crying with laughter. So that's so hopefully he'll be back with us in a moment. So once he's cured his hysteria. But anyway, Morgan Moran then at the end of the warm-up session, just a couple of hundredths in front of Martin Gosby. And that's interesting because you would imagine that if they're similar on lap times, they're probably on similar fuel loads. So interesting to see that. But now we're going to go into the race, ready for the formation lap.
We're going into the race. Hold on to your seats, ladies and gentlemen. It's a twister front row, and well, it's just an amazing race. I don't know. Should we do a rerun of the grid? I think everybody has seen the names, right? So
well, we went through the top 10, didn't we? So maybe if we could go through from 11th downwards, that might be a good idea.
Nah, it's okay, it's okay. David Greco though, pole position with an amazing lap, and he is definitely the pace setter the last few races, like you have pointed out earlier. He's definitely the guy that should have made life so horrible for Morgan and for Bono if he was this competitive at the start of the season, and he obviously didn't race at the start of the season. But yeah, he is just, you know, he's a true Greco.
He certainly is. We've just to bear in mind that Eros Masciuli and Yuri Toman start from the back of the grid in this race because they had back of the grid penalties, and Patrick Holzman as well, I think. So both the Ash Racing cars and Yuri Toman, who is driving for Mad Cape this week, and that's quite a coup for Mad Cape Racing because they've obviously a new team this year and they've been struggling in their first year, but they've managed to secure Yuri Toman for a race, and we know how fast he is, so even with a back of the grid penalty, that's a good bit of business from Mad Cape Racing.
Is this the first WC race of Yuri?
The first what? Sorry, repeat that question. I didn't quite hear the last bit.
Is it the first race of him in WC this year? I believe it is.
Which driver's that? Yuri?
Yeah, Yuri Toman.
No, it's not. I was saying it was Mad Cape's first season and that he's driving for them today rather than Precision. I believe he's competed for Precision at some point, or GT Omega. I'm not sure, though. It's a good question.
No, I feel to recall at the moment. I'm sure some people that are pro Precision are like, oh my god, are you serious? Are you seriously don't know that, Chris? No, but yeah. Never mind. The important thing now is the start of Bono and the start of Morgan. And
that very tight turn one.
And that very tight turn one with a sort of double apex. Yeah, we already seen the accident that have to happen each weekend, and unfortunately for me as well, it was an ace. But it does mean that we didn't see as many accidents in pro, and we're of course not gonna see any accidents here and in the first order in WC. I'm telling the drivers here. You are not crashing each other this day and age. David Greco will have the least of worries there. He got two teammates behind him that are able to well, either jump him or they disrespect their boss by just going out in front of them. Nevertheless, David Greco has slotted his car into position, and now it's for him a long wait until Yuri Toman is in his slot as well. And well, the drivers are ready.
Yeah, we have a nice camera here looking back down the pit straight as well, so you can see very clearly Yuri Toman, the red and black Madcape car, pulling in to his final slot. And then you will see very clearly as well the lights on the gantry above. Excellent camera that we have right down the pit straight here at Suzuka, which makes it nice and easy for us to see. David Greco then on the right-hand side.
And here we go.
And Martin Gosby on the left-hand side. Let's see who gets the better start. It's away they go. Greco gets a great start. And there's a massive accident at the back. Huge accident.
There's a huge accident. 2 FDS cars making barrel rolls all over again. And it's Jim Paresis who gets dived by Morgan Moran. Morgan taking that 4th spot away from Jim. And where is Bono, guys? Bono is already made up 2 places. Good job from him. He's now in 8th place. I don't know what happened there on the back. I don't see any red flags coming out of the marshals at this moment. Not even digital marshals. But those were definitely 2 FDS cars just seriously making barrel rolls.
I would like to make a guess that Norbert Leitner stalled because he started 6th, did he not? So he should not have been back there in that accident, which is what makes me think that he had a slow start because he was miles in front of Patrick Devitt on the grid. So a very odd situation there.
Well, you're just going to focus. Well, you're going to focus on the race. I'm just going to rewind it. Take us through the next part of the track here. First lap.
I will do then. So while Chris is investigating that for us, David Greco has already pulled out nearly a second on Martin Gosby. Ivan Calames is up into 3rd. He's had a very good start. Morgan Moran in 4th. Jim Paresis has dropped back to 5th at the moment. And Bono Huis, as Chris mentioned, up to 8th place. So at the moment then, the championship is definitely going down to the wire. And we're looking further back at drivers that have really suffered. Have you found out the cause of that, Chris?
We might see a red flag because it's a launch control issue of Norbert Leitner that caused this accident. It hasn't been the first launch control issue. Mind you, if you have seen the second Ace race yesterday, that first big pile-up crash which caused the red flag, that was Norbert Leitner not using his launch control because there was something wrong with it. It's his launch control right now.
Well, the strange thing is, I'm pretty sure that he tested that between the 2 races as well, so why it failed again is very odd.
It's his launch control. He obviously didn't do it on purpose, but it was his launch control yet again. So if the director wants to do a restart, according to the rules, it has to be something with the launch control. It could be, he would have the right to do it.
He would, but only 4 cars dropped out, so it might well be considered that that's not enough to constitute a red flag. I know that we had a few others damage.
A lot of damage, and we've seen this in AC again as well yesterday. The first lap there were 4, 3 laps later there were 9 in the first race, all with suspension damage. Hard call to make since indeed there are 4 drivers right now, but nah, this is... if I were to make a call, I know Jack Keatley loves my calls, but if I would make a call, I would say definitely a red flag because it's just not fair to the drivers who have practiced so much for this race. And of course it's WC of FSR, I know that, but I mean, having a guy not using his launch control, we all know this in the real, the first car behind that is able to dodge, the second is able to dodge barely, and the second one is already coming onto him with the 100 kph or 60 miles an hour, and it's impossible then to avoid it, and that's why we've seen all the damage and all the carnage, and I don't know.
Well, we've seen it in motorsport in real life as well, and it's something that is you never want to see that, but nevertheless, the race carries on for the time being. We've completed 2 laps at the moment. Greco 1.1 seconds ahead of Gosby, which is crucial, of course, because he's outside DRS. Bono Huis going very well in 8th place at the moment, and of course he's on that harder tyre. So some good laps going in here from Bono, and he's keeping up with the rest, which is very, very good sign. Because of course he's going to have that tyre advantage later on when they have to use the harder tyre. So at the moment you would have to say this is going well for Bono.
Yeah, it's reasonable. He made up 2 places, and like you said, with the harder compound of the tyre, this is definitely a dream start for him.
Sorry, Chris, Dino Paolini's been in the wall, and I think he's going to be out of the race as well. He's been off at turn 1, so that's one of the Madcape boys out, I think. Yuri Toman, mind you, is up to 14th, having started 25th, and all that carnage at the start certainly helped him. He's up 11 places, so a great start from Toman.
Yeah, so Paolini back onto the track again, but his race effectively is over. And oh yes, so much damage. Just
Yeah, you need to
escape
retire
Dino.
that, Dino, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
There's no
he's going
point
back
trying
on
to
track,
drive
though.
that back round. He's going to keep going. He shouldn't do, to be honest. I'm afraid that there's no way that your pit crew are ever going to be able to fix that, not in less than about 3 hours anyway, so there's no point in carrying on round, and once the other drivers come round again, it's going to be dangerous, so he really does need to remove this car from the race.
That's what I wanted to say, and he's spinning again. Stop this car, Dino, just stop the car. Like Felipe Massa heard one.
I admire his determination and tenacity, but quite seriously, Dino, you're not gonna get anywhere.
Oh, so now it's an eye out. Sorry for not catching the leaders at this moment, but David Greco just passing onto the third lap of this race, and at this pace he's easily gonna get Dino.
Oh, so Dino... Torres is off. Torres is off in turn 1 and he's hit the wall. He just passed Jack Keighley and then he overcooked it into turn 1. There's another car that's spun out as well. Carnage in turn 1. I don't know if there's something down there, maybe in case of debris. Is that Kostadinov? It's one of the Aventers that's gone off, I think.
That is certainly unfortunate.
I think it was Mike Partington, actually, was it? Was it Mike Partington? Yes, it was. It was Mike Partington that spun while he was trying to overtake Yuri Toman, I think. There was a pass between him and Toman, and he tried to get up the inside, and then so 2 cars off in the same corner. Unrelated incidents. That's very bizarre.
Yeah. So Dino Paolini making his way up to the pit, and he just spun around again, but hopefully David Greco won't be annoyed by that, because he's coming up right now. If we could go on board with him, with David Greco. If we could go on board, here is the chicane. Oh, come on, Dino. Oh, come on. We cannot see any unfortunate things like this. David Greco already had so much unfortunately last race of a race ago in Monza. Fortunately, he did not meet him. Phew! Well, that's one problem solved. I mean, we don't want to see a driver with 80 kilometers an hour, you know. It's like an old lady or an old guy driving with 20 miles an hour on the highway. It's just a danger. Nevertheless, it's Martin Gosby following in the footsteps of David Greco and the tire tracks, I should say. Quite literally, because he's not giving an inch. Everyone is dropping a little bit. Even Ivar here, who made up a place, but he's now 2.3 seconds behind Gosby, and Gosby is just half a second behind Greco here.
Greco had a bad lap on the last lap. He was 6/10 slower than Martin. He does seem to have picked it back up again now, but the car looked pretty slow through the final 2 seconds. I'm not entirely sure why, but he certainly was a much slower lap from David Greco last time around. It dropped off massively by 7/10 of a second from the previous lap, which you wouldn't normally see just from general tyre wear.
Indeed, and the amount of assistance that Bono is getting here from his teammate Ivar is significantly huge, because Morgan is kind of stuck to Ivar. I'm sure he's that little bit quicker in the race pace, Morgan Morant, but he's just not able to get past. Ivar is doing a great job defending, great job into keeping Morgan behind, and that's basically his job for the race. If I were Ivar, though, he has he has won a race in Italy. He can only help his team now to secure the World Championship, and he can help Bono with that. He's in the perfect spot to do that, and I do think that he agrees with me on that, and he's doing everything for Bono right now.
Yeah, so
and
just
mind
to
you,
reiterate,
Bono is on the hard tire, so he can jump the lot.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And this is what I said earlier on. Sometimes during the early laps, you're battling with other cars and you can't make the most out of the softer tyre. So Bono on the harder tyre is looking very good at the moment, it has to be said. If Morgan gets past Ivar Calames, of course, he's in 3rd position, which is one of the places where he could wrap up the championship, but only if Bono's out of the points in 3rd. So that's definitely not going to happen the way things are going at the moment, although we say that. There's so many things that can happen around this circuit one way or the other.
Yeah, clearly, and it's now the job for Morgan Morant to pass this fast Precision Motorsport car and get on with it, because he's losing time now to both David Greco and Martin Gosby. Ivar Calames on the 3rd spot, not making way though. And Morgan might think, okay, I'm just gonna slot in behind Ivar and I'm gonna win at the pit stops. You know, maybe pit 1 lap earlier or 1 lap later. But I'm sure this win will be a tactical one, even for David Greco, because 2.5 seconds over Ivar is not enough to win a race by. Well, in the last lap it is, but you know, we still got around 260 kilometers to go. So yeah.
One thing about Bono is that he's going to have to time is the fact that he's got to time his pit stop, because here, if you come out in traffic, you're going to be in trouble, because as we've said, it's not easy to, even with newer tyres, it can be difficult to overtake here. So that's going to be interesting. So Bono's got to have to watch out that. Of course, if anyone can overtake, it's Bono Huys, but nevertheless, it is something he's got to consider, because he will lose time if he's in traffic. So he's got to try and find a gap to drop into after he's gone onto those medium tyres as well, and then hopefully he can make up some time. Of course, he may stay out longer than the others. It depends on how long he wants to stay on those hard tyres.
I know a lot of these drivers are. Yeah, I know a lot of these drivers are making use of race engineers during the race, sort of a team radio, as you would say. But I don't know if Bono does that. If he does so, I mean, he would have no problem in picking the perfect moment. If he does not have a race engineer, I would still think he would be good enough to pick a great moment instead of a perfect one. And in terms of tactics, Bono clearly thinking ahead. And I already think that, I do think that after that Q2 lap, that he throttled on into the pit, he already thought like, okay, I'm gonna start on hard, and I have to do it like that. I mean, imagine if he would be on softs now, it would still be those 4 spots that would give him the disadvantage. He actually got a great perspective now because he's on the harder compound, and that perspective as a racing driver is so important that you have it in the back of your head. The next pit stop, he's gonna go to the hard tire most likely. I can even do a medium stint now, which is a softer compound here, and he might go on like that. But let's see how it will turn out. I do think that we will see the first, or at least the majority of the first pit stops in between lap 10 and lap 14. Quite a big window there, but
well, it just goes to show as well, though, that that early on the hardest 2 compounds we have, which shows you how difficult this track is on tyres. They really do, you know, they're all high-speed corners round here. It really is not a nice track for a tyre, and you wouldn't want to be a tyre around this circuit, that's for certain. And it's interesting at the moment, looking at the timing screens, we've almost got 3 trains of cars at the moment. First down to 8th are all in sort of together, then we've got 9th down to 14th, and then 15th to 18th. And they're all very close together, so it's interesting how this race has worked out so far. We almost seem to have groups of drivers at different speeds.
Yeah, clearly. And Morgan now getting into the dirty air of Ivar. He has to make a choice, or either go for it or stick a little bit behind him, because behind Morgan is Jim Parise and Peter Briljak, not the least of names, that are capitalizing on any mistake that these guys are making. I mean, unlike the real Formula 1, this is still driving fully each and every lap, and if you are 1/10 down each lap, then you will sure notice that in race duration. However, though, it's a little bit of a gap of 1 second to Jim and Morgan. So top 4 now breaking loose a little bit.
You know, Simoncic has just come into the pit stop then, so he's the first blink of anybody on lap 8, which is quite early, has to be said. I'm not sure that that's a... I hope it's a scheduled stop. I think it is.
Yeah, most likely will be, and well, Bono's still
goes
looking
out
strong.
on the hard tyre, so he's going now onto the hard tyre to do his stint on that tyre, which means that he has now fulfilled the rule about running both sets of tyres, so Simoncic can drive with whatever tyres he wants now to the end of the race.
Yeah, he sure can, and Rob van Starkenburg closing down on Peter Briljak, passing would be a completely different story though. We are also not the least of names. It's so nice that we don't have only Bono and Morgan again. We have so many top drivers here. It's absolutely insane.
It is, and Yuri Toman, by the way, is up to 10th now for Madcape from the back of the grid. So he's having a Raikkonen race at the moment. There's no doubt about the car there off on the side. I think that's a lap start.
It's Blair Disley. Take notice, guys. This is how you obey and respect blue flags. And who else to expect this from than Blair Disley, also a living fossil in FSR. And well, shout out to Yuri Tomon for the 10th spot at this moment. Kind of say he's halfway there, you know. I mean, top 10 position would already be nice from the entire race. He needed 9 laps.
Yeah, I heard a joke the other day that somebody said with Max Verstappen coming into Formula 1 this year, there was some of them were saying, hang on a second, I'll come back to that because Berliak and Paresis are going side by side, and Jim Paresis, I think, is he in front of Berliak? I think he is.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was how it was before, but they were certainly side by side coming down the straight. So just went a little bit defensive there, Paresis, but Berliak didn't manage to get the move stuck on him. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, Max Verstappen is coming into Formula 1 next year, age 17. And somebody said to me the other day, I think Patrick de Witt was racing before Max Verstappen was born, wasn't he? In sim racing. So that's a little joke there. I'm sure Patrick won't mind. But it's just one of those things, you know, some of these guys have been around a very long time in FSR and really do have a huge amount of experience. And Blair Disley is one of those. And he really showed that with the class act that he was in keeping out of the way of the leaders there down the back straight.
And I remember, I mean, team boss of Crown 7 Networks, obviously being Ernesto De Angelis, he actually raced in 2002 or 3 or even 4 with David Greco.
I think it was 2001 the first season in FSR, yeah.
So that was, yeah, but that was the time when he also raced with Greco. He had a horrifying accident with him in Monaco. That just shows you that it's like 10 years ago, and David Greco now still driving and well, almost teaching the guys. Sorry to say, but he's really the fastest guy these last 3-4 races. It has to be said. Fair is fair. Twister is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, Morgan Moran getting very close now to Ivar Calamies. Bono Huis has dropped a little bit away from Rob van Starkenburg at the back of this group. Maybe the hard tyres just starting to show now as David Greco comes into the pit lane. So Greco's in the pits. We'll focus on that in a moment because Morgan Moran is in the slipstream of Calamies down into turn 1. Will he be able to make the move stick? No, he won't. Not enough straight line speed. Van Starkenburg and Paresis in as well.
Well, I do think that Morgan has the straight line speed. I do think, however, that Precision or let's say Ivar has the better top speed, even with DRS closed. So, yeah, good job from him, I guess. But Morgan applying the pressure here, and it's now all of David Greco. He did rejoin the track into clean air with a fresh new set of tires of medium compound. So he is looking forward to make this stint work.
Yeah, and as it stands at the moment, the gap between Moran and Huis going into the final race, we don't pay too much attention to this actually because there are some pit stops going on, would be 15 points, but that's probably roughly what it would be when they get back into their respective positions. So that's the gap that he would have at the moment, Morgan, going into the final race. We'll keep you updated on that as the race goes on. But Morgan Moran, well, he's lost a bit of time to Calamies now in the first couple of sectors. He's gone out to half a second. He was 2/10 behind at the line and just losing a bit of time again, but we know that Ivar Calamies is very strong through that first sector, so it's possible that Morgan now is gaining that back over the course of the lap.
I do think we won't see any change in position between Ivar and Morgan before the pit stops, which will arrive any day soon now. Will they go into the pits this time around? Ivar is, Morgan is not, so Ivar making the pit stop here. And let's see, brakes early for that 100-kilometer mark. Nevertheless, my eyes are a little bit. Yeah, Bono is in as well. Wow, that's surprising after 11 laps with the harder compound. Maybe he just wanted to get it out of the way, and he can go back to medium and finish the race with that if he would like that. He certainly is going for the medium compound this time around. I don't think Bono or Morgan are thinking about.
Sorry,
Greco.
Peter Berliak is off in turn 1. He's in the gravel and he's spun off. I think he's spun off. I'm just trying to. Yeah, he didn't have any help. He just outbraked himself into turn 1 by the looks of things, and he came very close to hitting the wall. I'm not sure if he's lost his front wing. I don't think he has actually, but he's very fortunate.
He lost his competitiveness in this race, though.
Yes, he certainly has, but he was very fortunate not to lose the front wing as well, because he came dangerously close to the outside barrier in turn 1. But he gets away with it on that occasion from that perspective. At least he won't have to come in and make a pit stop, but his tyres will be very dirty for the next lap or so.
He does have a little bit of damage, I'm sure, because he's driving like a crippled frog. I don't know, but yeah, he has some problem with his car. Nevertheless, let's go back to the pack. Jim Parise is now on Patrick Holtzman. Oh, they make contact. Holtzman just losing out a little bit. And not severe contact though. Bono in 10th position on the fresher rubber behind Jim. Tries to go for the inside. Jim on the also a new fresh tire, but on the harder compound.
And this is what I was talking about, because Bono Huis, unlike the cars in front of him, has come out in traffic behind Parise's Holtzman and Coleridge.
Morgan Pitts.
Gosby and Moran in the pits.
So,
there's going to be.
I hear crashes.
I hear crashes as well. Somebody's hit the barrier somewhere. Parisis has got up the inside of Holtzman, trying to work out who's hit the barrier, I think. Well, we heard a crash, but I can't actually see any evidence of one.
No, well, that's just good, I think. Yuri Toman pits as well, so does Keithley. Wow, that
the timing screens are tumbling around like a fruit machine at the moment. They will come back. Well, I'm sure we'll know who's where at the moment. So from what we gather, Greco is now in the lead. Gosby second. Calame's third, Moran fourth. So that's back as you were. Antonio Coleridge has not come into the pit lane yet, and that is holding up Jim Parisis and Bono Huis, who are behind him in 6th and 7th place. Huis has jumped Van Starkenberg in the pit lane. Keithley is 9th, Simoncic 10th. Yuri Toman has been in the pits and has come out in 11th, so he is continuing to make progress.
Yeah, and you can see the difference now in terms of drive modes, attacking each and every corner full on. He knows that it's essential to get past, and he actually is forced to dive Jim Parisis here. That was a pure dive bomb, but that definitely wasn't his intention. Jim Parisis braked so early, and Bono was able to avoid him and overtake him on the same spot. But that was clearly the only move Bono could make in order to avoid contact with Jim. But what a brilliant move it was. And he will get past Antonio Coleridge without a sweat, I'm sure.
He does so now. I think it was interesting actually. It was a bit like Kobayashi move down there into the hairpin from a couple of years ago. Bono Huis is going to go straight up the inside of Antonio Coleridge though, and takes 5th place. Coleridge runs wide, and that lets the other two through, does it? I think it does.
Even
so that's
3.
Good news. Borja Garcia is out of the race, unfortunately. It might have been him that we heard crashing. Because he was a back marker. So Bono Huis then is now in 5th, Parisis 6th, Van Starkenberg 7th, Coleridge down to 8th, and I think is Coleridge carrying on? He is, so he's trying to go a long distance in this first stint.
Yeah,
and,
but this is crucial for Bono, that he jumped these guys and that he's now 1 spot behind Morgan, who is driving in 4th place. I do want to get back on that incident that we have seen with Peter Briljak. It's the beauty. It's what makes Suzuka such a beautiful circuit for a driver. If you are off the track for one moment and you hit that grass, or you hit that piece of grind, then you are basically off. And well, we just seen that mistake is so easily made. And around Suzuka, you have no runoff areas or whatsoever. So Ivar Calame is now getting really under pressure by Morgan. Both are on the harder compound, a fresh set of hards.
Yeah, well, Morgan's probably seen on his pit board that plus 5 seconds be Huis, and that's probably given him a little bit of a speed up, because that's what the guy behind him is now, Bono Huis. So they're together on track. Morgan Moran ahead of Bono Huis, and they've both made up places, but Huis has been fantastic. Moran has only made up 1 spot, Huis has made up 5. And that's been the difference so far in this race. So despite a bad qualifying, Huis going great in the race, and Moran really will want to get past Ivar Calame.
Rob Starkenberg here on Jim Parisis onto the chicane, last chicane of the track. Rob decides it's not yet time to capitalize on that gap. He loses a lot of traction there, but manages to keep the car on the road. Just a little moment for him, little sweat. Nevertheless, 37.9 for Rob.
And Coleridge finally into pit lane then, so that will move Simoncic up tonight, and it will move Toman into the points. And Yuri Toman is coming past the outside of Jurnej Simoncic down into turn 1, and he's made it stick as well. And the Mapcape Racing Team driver is up into 9th place now. What a performance by him so far, from 25th on the grid.
Yeah, and Toman here definitely showing why he is in the seat that he is right now, and he wants to score some points for Mapcape. And he's sure in contention to do so. Does have a little bit of a gap to Jack Keithley, but nothing is impossible. Morgan now really close to Ivar. So let's see here now. Almost, yeah.
Interestingly, it's just been pointed out to us by our cameraman that actually from a constructor's point of view that's crucial as well, because if Jiri Toman finishes in 9th place, that would jump Madcape ahead of Venus Project in the Constructors' Championship. So that could be crucial for them as well as...
Yeah, what is crucial? Sorry to interrupt you, Morgan Morant. Morgan Morant can almost smell Ivar Calames here. Is on the outside. Great defending from Ivar. Making the rooms rather small and makes it impossible for Morgan to overtake. But no dirty driving here. Great driving from Ivar. He already knows that. Yeah, this is the DRS zone. He already showed he had a great top speed. He's going defensive now. Morgan on the outside. Actually, ooh, touches the grass even. Manages to stick it to the outside. Morgan going way too aggressive and goes off. Morgan goes off the track. So does Ivar though. Bono capitalizes on that. Is on 3rd spot. Morgan now realizes that his car is so broken, but he has to continue. Can he continue?
Well, Calames, I don't think he can, and Morgan Moran is not happy about that incident. And well, to be honest, to me, it looked Calames was on the inside for most of the time, but he did run a little bit wide into the 2nd sector.
Yeah, and it's official.
Something we need to see again.
Morgan had to retire from this race. I do have to say, like, I was a little bit surprised that Morgan went to the outside, to be honest, because Ivar didn't defend the inside as severely.
There wasn't a lot of space there, was there?
No, he could go out of the gap, but Morgan was still determined to take that position. Well, he is still the leader of the championship, but I do want to criticize that a little bit because
I'm afraid
he could have
he
just backed out.
Because where Bono Huis was finishing at the moment, that would put Bono Huis 5 points ahead.
Yeah, sure, but at the moment, I mean, at the moment he still is. But I do think that's really unfortunate for Morgan. But I do think that, and I have to say, and yes, I am a Netwreck, sorry for this, Ernesto, but I do think that that was a little bit his own fault, actually.
I agree with you, actually, and if anyone thinks that we're biased towards Netwreck, it just shows we're not, because my opinion is, having watched the replay, that Calames was about as far on the inside as he could have been, and to me, that is Morgan Moran's fault. So
yeah, a little bit of over-determination for Morgan, and of course there was room on the outside, but yeah. It was
over-aggressive when it didn't need to be. I think that's what we can gather from that. And he must have known that he needed to be careful passing Calames anyway, given that Calames is Bono Huis's teammate. Naturally, Calames is going to defend the position hard because that's what he's going to do for his team.
Well, having had the DC last week around, he sees almost sees the championship falling through his hands. He can only hope and pray that something goes wrong for Bono, but that's not fashionable in any way. Yeah, I really feel bad for Morgan, but I feel even better for Ivar because his race. Oh no, his race didn't end, but he did lose a lot of places. But Ivar, yeah, sorry to say, but Morgan, but I really think Ivar is the victim here. Morgan though chatting in the race.
Yeah, which is not a good idea either. Van Starkenburg's just been off in the spoon. So he's just run wide and made a mistake there. And we've seen quite a lot of mistakes so far in this race. It's just the nature of the Suzuka circuit, as Chris mentioned earlier. Rob Van Starkenburg running wide in the spoon curve. And it lost him a lot of time to Jim Parisis, who he was chasing hard. So that's the situation at the moment. The situation at the front is getting pretty close. Gosby's back in the DRS. He's only 8ths behind David Greco. But the Twister Racing team and the Twister Racing Blacks are there up the front. Berliak is still down in 14th, and one suspects that he did get some damage from that Turn 1 incident, and that is why he's not really able to make any progress.
Yeah, clearly. And
well, Mike Partington now for Aventa Sim Racing as well, so they're dropping like flies at the moment, and might be another chance to get out in the safety car and get some points, Chris.
Yeah, clearly. Clearly. I wanted to just say that
it's another mistake. It's not an incident with another driver. He's gone off in Degner 2, I believe, and crashed. So that's just another mistake, and that's the nature of the circuit again, catching drivers out.
Yeah, really unfortunate for him. I just wanted to point out that David Greco and Martin Gosby are just in a league of their own. They're in the Twister League right here, driving 1-2 together. I honestly don't think that Martin is gonna make life miserable for Greco if he gets the opportunity. David is just driving so relaxed through here, and it's a real trust in the team that that they don't do any, you know, Canada moves, let's put it like that, and crash each other out.
The thing for Morgan Moran is, though, with Greco and Huis a little bit ahead of Bonner, Greco and Gosby, rather, sorry, a little bit ahead of Huis, that is going to create a situation where, at the moment, there would be 5 points between them going into the final race, which would mean that basically whoever wins the championship in that final race, as long as they finish first. So it still means that it's very much in either of the drivers' hands if that is the situation going into the final race.
On that base, I hope Bono will drop 2 places to P5 and he gets 10 points instead of 15. So it will be a tight battle, you know. It would be like, you know, whoever finishes 10th or 9th will win. But yeah, certainly he's not gonna drop back willingly, and he has a 3.5 second gap actually to Jim Paresis, and he is on the quicker compound at the moment, Bono. So he surely has the papers.
The 2 out front at the moment, so they are doing extremely well.
But I think Bono would sign for this. I don't think he will go through the edge to get a win here. I'm sure he's really realistic too, and will say, okay, I'm not up to pace for a win, but I can at least close the gap and get the lead back into the championship. So
yes, well, Morgan Moran just joining us out of the race following an incident that was regrettable to say the least from his part in the turn 1. I don't think that he will get any penalty for it. There's just some talk about that, or whether that's going to happen or not on the YouTube channel. I don't think he will. It was a racing incident, but it was something that he didn't need to put his car there. That was really what me and Chris were saying. He didn't need to put his car in that position, and that really is where he fell down a little bit there. It was not a deliberate crash or anything like that. It's a racing incident, but he just didn't need to put his car in that position, Chris.
No, that's clearly my point of view. Ivar had the racing line, and well, he could have backed off. But if you see an opportunity and you're determined, you go for it. And it backfired horribly for Morgan. Of course, it was not his intention, but this is unfortunately the result. And yeah, he had to retire with a hard smack onto the wall, and he is really pissed off right now. And yeah, all the reason to be so.
Well, let's see where this goes anyway. Later in the race, we'll talk about that Moran incident later. It's focused on the racing for the time being. Petter Helmbro is in the pit lane for Avid Chronic. They're not having such a good race today. Jon-Erik Saxon went out on the first lap in that incident that we saw, and so it's not the greatest of days for them. But nevertheless, Helmbro still running down in 14th place. Behind Petter Berliak at the moment. He's just been passed by Berliak, in fact, but I think he's been in the pit lane, so that would explain that one. Holzman has just passed Simoncic for 9th place. So Toman and Holzman, both coming from the back of the grid, have done great jobs because they are now 8th and 9th. And Yuri Toman is actually only 1.3 seconds behind Ivar Kalamis. Now, if you consider where Ivar Kalamis qualified, I know he's had that incident with Morgan Moran, but still, that is very impressive from Yuri.
Yeah, clearly, and well, he's still up there, so...
Just seeing something interesting here, Chris. Martin Gosby frequently on the way down the straight, and we've not seen this for quite some time because engine failures have not been so problematic this year. But in the past, we often saw during races that if an engine was about to fail, a car would pull out of the slipstream of others to try and save his engine. And Gosby's been doing that every lap down the main straight, which is a little bit odd.
No, I don't think it's odd. He knows that he has an extensive gap of 8 seconds to Gosby. He also knows that he's not gonna overtake David Greco, and if they are gonna fight, they are gonna fight maybe in the last few laps of this race. I think he's just keeping it together, and actually he keeps his head onto the important things, and he actually remembers that engine temperature can cause problems, so he's already going into clean air. So I would see that as good thinking from Martin, actually. But yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting race that this has been so far. There's 14 cars left on the lead lap, and there's not a lot of cars left in the race, to be honest. We've lost quite a lot over the course of this race so far. High rate of attrition, especially considering we're not even halfway through this race at the moment. But just looking down the field at the battles that are going on at the moment, there's a few that are spread out. Van Starkenburg is within 8/10 of Paresis, and Dejan Kostadanov has now gone out of the race as well.
He crashed as well. I mean,
exactly the same incident as Mike Partington, his teammate, pretty much. Almost identical.
Yeah, he steered in too early, and he lost the car basically. So yeah, another suspension failure here. Because obviously the collapse into the wall, but that leaves the total of retirements onto 9 already. And of course we have had that launch control issue with Norbert Leitner where...
Hang on a second, we've missed something here because David Greco is second.
Oh, we did! What did we miss? What did we miss? Obviously an overtake. So David Greco was on the back straight, on the main straight, with Martin Gosby just coming alongside, and he just says to Gosby, okay, you can take over now, I will go into second at the moment. And Gosby is just getting released here from Greco. I do think these guys are just playing together really well, and think about the importance of team instead of individual performance, and yeah, really something that defines them at the moment.
So Martin Gosby then now out in front. Clearly Greco feels that at this point in the race Gosby can go faster. Huis is catching them now. He's not catching at a huge rate, but it is a little bit every lap. And Gosby now over a second ahead of Greco already. So Twister may be just playing the safe game here. If they feel Gosby is faster, then it makes sense for Gosby to pull a bit of a gap. And Greco, if Huis catches him, then can hold Huis off without them worrying about whether Huis would then catch Gosby.
Yeah, so
and Greco comes in the pits now.
So that allows Bono to pass on through onto second place. Greco putting on the harder compound, and Gosby still
a lot of wheel spin as he exited the pit lane there.
Well, at least his tires are warm. Oh, and Keithley also coming across David Greco. And well, that might actually prove a little bit unfortunate for David, since you want to re-enter the track with a clear vision, and now he sees the GT Omega car of Keithley. So let's see if he can make an easy pass on these fresh set of tires. He indeed
that was quick.
That was really quick. Jack Keithley losing momentum there, and instantly David Greco says, "Okay, bye bye, Zwei Zwei. I'm going off."
He is indeed, and he's pulling away very quickly as well. Jim Paresis is the next car up the road, which I can't imagine would be a particularly difficult move, given that they're both in the Twister Racing house. That's going to be the next one for him to make a move on. David Greco then in 4th position and 4 seconds at the moment behind Jim Paresis. Bono Huis is now slower than Martin Gosby, so it's clearly Gosby was faster than Greco was at that point in the race, because Huis is now dropping away from the leader again. Yeah,
Gosby should pit any day now soon, although David was the first one. No, Martin is instantly following him, trying to cover off David Greco here. I do think, however, that it was a deliberate team effort to let Martin Gosby pass. Bono pitting as well, by the way, because he just wanted to have that little bit of clean air, because David Greco obviously knew he was going to pit, and he maybe just wanted to give some time to Gosby. Jim Paresis now leading.
Yeah, we've had quite a few leaders in this race, haven't we, through one pit stops and various things over the course of this race.
Greco. Gosby did jump Greco though.
Yeah, so he stays ahead of Greco. Remember, Greco let him through before Greco passed.
I know, letting him through, but I would think, you know, it would be the other way around from now. But it would be the sensible thing to have Martin Gosby in front, because he's on the medium compound. David Greco is on the harder. So it wouldn't be a surprise if we slowly but steadily see Gosby walk away from his team boss. And the race almost getting halfway in 4 laps, that is.
Yeah, Patrick Holzman has dropped back behind Jurnej Simončić now after the pit stop, so that's not worked out for him because he's outside the points again. Yuri Toman is up in 5th place now, although I think he is 1 pit stop behind people, but nevertheless he's looking strong in this race, and he's driven well. Jack Keighley in 4th. Reese is then leading, with he hasn't come in yet. Gosby and Greco 2nd and 3rd. Bono Huis once again is in traffic compared to the two he's trying to close down on, Gosby and Greco. The guy up the road from him is Yuri Toman, who is normally his teammate. Normally drives for Precision in Ace. But I don't imagine will Toman do him any favours, given that he's a driving Madcape this weekend. Probably not.
Of course he will be. I mean, fair is fair. He's still a Precision driver. And I don't think he will make life hard for Bono, who's in the championship.
So they've effectively got 5 cars in the race then?
No, you can't say anything like that. I mean, just as Norbert Leitner did his move for FTS today, he already raced in Ace, mind you, so it's pure incidental. I don't want to say that the PM has 5 cars in this race at the moment. It's clearly not.
I was just ribbing. Anyway,
okay, that's cool.
Martin Gosby, he's pulled that gap on Greco quite a lot over that first couple of laps. So Gosby looking very strong at this point in the race as the fuel loads have come down a bit. Greco's certainly the fastest man early on, but now Gosby's starting to pull that. He's 1.9 seconds ahead and he's gaining nearly half a second a sector. Gosby is really starting to turn the style on here, and he's going a lot faster than anybody else out on track at the moment. Yuri Toman, by the way, is running 3rd. Madcape must be having a great day with this, and they're getting a bit of airtime as well, which would be good for their sponsors. Yuri Toman with Huis right behind him now as they go through the hairpin.
Yeah, and Martin Gosby realizes that this is the stint that he has to make the tires work. He has the compound advantage at the moment over Greco, who is on the harder compound. Gosby on the medium, on the softer of the two. And he's taking this with both hands. He's just saying, okay, I got the lead of the race now. I need to make the stint work. And wow, he's already 2.5 seconds clear of Greco.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I think they might be on different tyres, actually. Toman just let Huis through, that's what we were expecting. So Huis then up into 3rd place, as Patrick Hosman has now repassed Jene Simoncic as well for 10th, so he's back into the points. There's a big battle going on for 7th at the moment. Calames, Kolarec and Keighley, all with... Calames has actually pulled a bit now away from Antonio Kolarec, but Keighley right behind Kolarec.
Toman in the pits though. Before this entire second pit stop window, I remember Yuri was in 10th spot. And where will he drop to? Ivar will pass him, Jack will pass him, Antonio will pass him, and he is into 9th. So after this pit stop again, making up 1 more place. This is looking really promising for Yuri. Of course he has the freshest tires of anyone on the track.
He does indeed. The reason that Greco, by the way, is got Gosby pulling away from him is because they're on different tyres. Gosby on the softer compound at the moment, while Greco is on the harder. So
I gotta stop you there. I already said that.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
So never mind there. But yeah, it's although it's amazing to see that almost half a second, 4/10 a sector Gosby is pulling out of Greco. So and Bono now on the medium compound as well, like Gosby. He is catching Greco at the moment, and it's only 6 seconds now. Well, yeah, only 6 seconds. It's it's a lot of time in Formula 1 terms, but it is shrinking though.
It is indeed, and Bono Huis, of course, he needs to make the most of this stint.
Onto Antonio Kolarec. Yuri Toman just overtook Antonio Kolarec, who I believe made a little bit of a mistake. See here, coming through the spoon. Yeah, he went wide through the spoon and re-entered back, and almost seemed like a blue flag situation there, but it was clearly not. It was for position. So Yuri Toman takes 8th place.
He does indeed. And Huis has got to make the most of this stint behind Greco, because of course at the moment Greco is on the harder tyre, but that's for this stint. Once he's got that out of the way, he doesn't have those again. So Antonio Kolarec now in the pit lane, so obviously the tyres were starting to really go away from him. Oh, and Toman's off! Wow, that was massive. That is huge.
Oh yeah, race done. Race is done.
He didn't even brake. That is a really bizarre crash, and I can only assume that he had a desktop crash or something like that, because...
Oh, whoa! Yeah, he didn't brake at all for turn 1, he just went in through the barriers with 300 kph. Like 180 miles an hour, just wrecks it straight on.
I think that's definitely got to be a desktop crash or something like that, because there's no way that you wouldn't brake at all. So very even if your brakes had gone a little bit, they'd still give a little bit of braking, at least some of them. So
yeah, but
that's an accident, I think, where we've seen some sort of failure on his computer, I think, rather than anything else.
He instantly left the race as well. Yeah, that was really weird to see, but yeah, nevertheless, that's the fact, and it almost starts to look like Suzuka 2013, where only 8 or 9 drivers got to the finish, I believe. Let's see, Blair Disney now driving in 15th spot, 1 lap down, just like Peter Helmbrook. Oh, they're actually gaining a spot because they haven't unlapped themselves from Yuri. So yeah, maybe they even get a point. Peter Briljak is certainly back into a point scoring position after that mistake he made early race, where he lost 10, 11, maybe even 12 seconds. And interesting developments here. So Jim Parise is now putting pressure and applying it onto Rob van Starkenburg, but yeah, not an easy cookie to crack, this Rob. So
no, it's not.
That's one guy, by the way, Rob van Starkenburg. I haven't seen him make huge mistakes or even small mistakes during the race. I think he has clean record this season, or at least if he did get a penalty, it was something of a racing incident. He's never a troublemaker.
Yeah, he's getting very close, isn't he, to the back of Van Starkenburg. Might have the DRS zone here. It's not always the easiest place to pass because it's actually quite a short DRS zone. So whether he feels that that's his best opportunity, or maybe he feels we've actually seen that most of the overtakes in this race have been made at other places. Strangely enough, there've been a couple down into turn 1, but
this DRS zone is absolutely perfect, and I'll tell you why. It's perfect because you only get a little bit of help. You don't get the 20 or 30 kilometer advantage that you get in real Formula 1. You just get a little bit of extra that might give you the opportunity to overtake. And with the dirty air, that's just a good yin and yang to have. So I think in terms of circuits with one DRS zone, as we see now, Jim Parise is opening it now, and it's not. This gap is already not big enough for him to make a move. It is allowing him to catch up to him and try again next time around. With Van Starkenburg just locking up, and yeah, quite a little bit there, severely even. But no, I'm not a real big fan of DRS, but the dirty air here does make it, you know, legit in my point of view. So Rob on the harder compound than Jim is, and Jim really needs to make the stint work, but you know, Rob is definitely we're holding him from that, of keeping him from doing that. And David Greco decided that enough is enough, and he decided to close the gap a little bit with Gosby, and he's now just following in his footsteps with 2 seconds to him. So. However, Jim Parise is really looking frustrated behind Van Starkenburg.
Yeah, he just can't find the way past, can he? It's like a brick wall that he's come up against, and you know, it's just not going to be very easy at all. Although Van Starkenburg didn't get the best traction away from the spoon curve, and Parise has closed all the way down the straight, and that's going to put him very close through 130R towards the Casio Triangle chicane. Don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move, but it may put him in with an opportunity if he gets a good exit out of this chicane down into turn 1. Let's see. He lost a bit on the exit of Casio Triangle, so I don't think he's going to get that down into turn 1. Let's see though. He gets a little bit of DRS, and he is getting quite close.
Yeah, but it's only quite
enough. No.
Ooh, Rob, what are you doing? A little bit of twitching the steering wheel there. Nevertheless, good driving from Rob, also with the defending lines. And if you make your car wide like that, then there's nothing you can do when your name is Jim Parise at the moment. It's just too far of a gap.
As long as his monitor doesn't fall off again, we'll be all right.
Yeah. And he has no drive-throughs, right? So, nah, it's all okay. It's all okay. He's absolutely a fantastic driver, and definitely the driver that FSR needs in terms of sheer dedication and pace. The last few races he has always been up to pace. So Rob now a little bit struggling under braking. I think his main priority is to race Parise because Huis is already gone, and he might just wants to, you know, controllably ruin the stint of Jim Paresis in order to pit in front of him and come out with the fresher set and the faster set. And just the defensive driving of Rob, he constantly is looking into his back mirrors, like of rear view mirrors, like is the Greek guy approaching, you know? But no move yet. Maybe this time around. Jim actually a little bit of oversteer, but Van Starkenburg not having the perfect exit himself. The gap is definitely closer than it was last time around. And I'm raising my voice because are we seeing an overtaking maneuver here? Van Starkenburg just closes the door. Nice move.
Yeah, it did get very close, and Van Starkenburg just came across to the inside slightly and said, no you don't, it's not going to be that easy. And Paresis therefore didn't manage to get through on that lap, but I'm sure he'll give it another go. He knows he can get close now out of that chicane.
Yeah, clearly. And as the field is spreading out, we obviously have Gosby leading, Greco second, Huis third, Van Starkenburg fourth, Paresis fifth, Calame sixth, Keithley seventh, Holzman eighth, Simonsis 9th and Antonio Coleridge in 10th, and that's your top 10 there. In total, the difference between Gosby and Coleridge now is 48 seconds, so that's a huge gap for the top 10. Yeah, already Eros Mascoudi in 12th spot has been lapped. Blair Disley has been lapped twice actually in 30 laps. Nevertheless, Martin Gosby won't get warmer or colder from that fact. He only gets really happy if he manages to win this race. And I do have to say that I think that David Greco is, you know, not giving Martin Gosby this race, but he won't be, you know, frustrated if Martin actually wins this. I think because of that earlier overtake from Gosby, David didn't defend. He just let him go. He is just saying to himself, okay, I can't win the championship. I already have won a lot of races for the amount of races that I have done this year. So why not get my favorite British person, Martin Gosby, do it? I don't know if David Greco actually thinks that Gosby is his favorite British person, but yeah.
Well, he is for the moment because he's a teammate. So But Jim Paresis is now 4/10 behind Van Starkenburg. He wasn't as close that time into turn 1, so didn't have the opportunity as they go through the Degners now, which have been catching so many drivers out today, and they always do, the Degners. They really are very, very difficult turns. It's a corner for the brave. You have to chuck it in, and particularly Degner 1. We've seen some cars flat out through there in qualifying, which is so seat of the pants stuff, because you really don't know. If you just get it slightly wrong, you're in the gravel. And we saw Kostadinov and Partington earlier for Reventa Sim Racing end up very much there in the gravel, because you just run an inch or two wide and it totally throws off the racing line, and you're in the barrier at the exit of Degner 2. Clearly,
and that's what happened. At the moment though, there is not much happening on track. I am wondering when we will see the third round of pit stops. I do think that the majority will do a 3-stop or a 4-stop.
And you might notice that behind Van Starkenburg and Paresis, Calamaze is starting to come into shot as Peder Helmbro, I think that is it? Or no, it's Masciuli getting nicely out of the way. Paresis then still not close enough that time on Van Starkenburg. Calame is just a couple of seconds behind them, so he'll be able to pick up any scraps if there's any mistakes from either of them. And Keithley just a couple of seconds behind that, so very close here between 4th to 7th position. Not too much of a gap between any of them. Bono Huis has gap to David Greco. That's stabilised now. He closed it down to 4 seconds, but it's remained that way. They're both dropping away from Martin Gosby, who's now 8.2 seconds in the lead. And Huis is out! Bono Huis is out!
What just happened there? I am gonna instantly watch the replay. And he made the same mistake that Kostadinov made. Or no, that Kostadinov made indeed. What are we seeing here? Unbelievable. I mean, debating about the accident with Morgan and Calame, that's two drivers fighting on one bone. This is just something that we are not used to see Bono do, and that's make a mistake. when he basically has the last podium spot secured for him.
And it's so bizarre because all he needed to do was finish the race, and that would have put him back in the lead of the championship, pretty much. He was not under any threat from behind. It's a very odd mistake for Bono to make under what seemingly was no pressure.
Yeah, this is really catching me out, and he instantly left the race as well. This is turning into a real spectacle of a race, not in terms of track activity, but more the incidental activities that have taken place on the track. We got so many drivers who have a DNF, and if we actually see that Bono, 4-time world champion, is making a mistake, obviously anyone could do it. So it just really surprises me, though. I did not see this coming.
No, I didn't. I mean, I thought that Huijs was nailed on to finish in 3rd position at least, because he just does not make those mistakes, especially not when he's not under any pressure, because he didn't have to get 2nd place, and maybe he was just pushing too hard trying to get 2nd and trying to increase that advantage, but
in the meantime,
3rd would have been enough to take the lead of the championship.
Clearly, and 5th would put him tie. In the meantime, though, Rob van Starkenburg got overtaken by Jim Paresis, who is now the happily number 3rd. So it's Twister 1, 2, 3 yet again. Not in the order how they started, but nevertheless, they are doing it.
What, I don't remember. I know you said you'd hit your keyboard at something, but I don't think it was that. But Twister might finish 1, 2, 3, 4 here yet, although Berliand's got a bit of a gap to make up if that's going to happen. But given how many drivers we've seen retire, I wouldn't put anything out of the question.
No, I believe I said it because the first sector time of Bono, who had such a poor sector 1 into Q2.
That's okay, then your teeth are safe.
Yeah, my teeth are white and safe. So, Martin Gosby leading this race with a 10-second gap. Rob van Starkenburg pits. He decided it's enough on this on these tires. Is he going to the harder compound and finishes the race on that? 19 laps remaining, and that's a long way to do. A long way to go. He is, however, going to try for it. So Rob van Starkenburg is gonna try to end the race on this stint of on this set of tires, and I do have to say that with a little bit of doubt, but I don't see him pit twice in 19 laps. Do we? So
I'm gonna get our researchers on something, because I want to know when the last time that both Morgan Moran and Bono Huijs retired from a race.
But Rob van Starkenburg still is driving, so Sherlock Holmes is not available yet.
No, that's very true. Why has he got that nickname, by the way? I'd love to know that. You didn't explain that to us earlier on.
Because Rob was the one who discovered that Jim Paresis was a little bit cheeky in the communication in the USA Grand Prix with the director Malorti. So yeah, he actually pointed it out. He could have made a complete PowerPoint presentation of it, and I was like, wow, Rob, you know.
Well, we like to do stuff professionally.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob
is someone who is
up to that.
Yeah, he's working daytime with, he's doing something in flowers or something. He should definitely start his own detective agency on that. Enough bad humor for me today and for you guys, because you have to hear me make the bad jokes. Yeah, however, it's not a joke that Twister is dominating this weekend. Has to be said. Fair is fair. I mean, you gotta give the guys credit who are deserving it. So might be if we continue on this fashion, we would not finish the race with 10 drivers. That's for sure. So Blair Disley now 2 laps down.
I think I think Patrick Holzman might be at us because he's disappeared as well.
Yep.
So and I think that's more down to lag. But
wow,
he's disappeared as well, and he's dropping down the timing sheet. So I think we might be. Yes, he has. So we're down to 12 drivers. That looks like a disconnection to me. I don't think that was any mistake on Holzman's part. It looks like a disconnection, so that's unfortunate. But that means we are now down to just 12 cars from the original 25. Believe it or not, folks, there's still 18 laps to go. I tell you what, you'd be devastated if you tuned into this one late.
Yeah, so Avid Chronic Racing is gonna get a car, at least in a scoring point position, with 1 lap down. Peter Helmbro driving in 10th spot. Not at the moment, because he still got to cross the line where Patrick Holzman had his DC. Really unfortunate that Holzman isn't listening to me. I told him not to disconnect this race, like I did with everyone, but that's just unfortunate. Well, he has another chance in 2 weeks. Yeah, but
I did say to you at the start of the race, don't say that. But there you go.
What are we seeing?
You never listen to me, do you?
No. Did Ivar Calames is now in 3rd spot? Jim Paresis?
Why is Paresis? Paresis has just dropped down. I think he must have been off the track somewhere. We're just going to have a.
Yeah.
We're just going to go on a replay. And
Yeah,
he spun in the
major
second
spin.
part of
Wow.
Spoon.
Yeah, the second part of Spoon he spun indeed, and it lost him 2 positions. So definitely not stable driving from him. Although this track is so tricky, and we have seen so many people being cast out. Jim instantly pits as well. That clearly puts his podium chances onto the line. And I do think that he's going back on track with the hard compound. And he is not. He's repairing damage, however. Wow.
Right, so where did he get the damage from? I can't imagine that it was from
No.
that spin, so it
No,
must have
it
been from
was
something
not.
else.
But he clearly made a longer pit stop than necessary. Did he? No, I'm bragging BS. Sorry about that. So he didn't repair damage or anyway. It just looked to me like that. Sorry for that mistake. He's back on track though. He did make a mistake in the Spoon turn, which, well, dropped him 2 positions down.
I'm told that it was Great Britain 2012, by the way, by our cameraman. That was the last time that Huis and Moran both retired.
Wow.
Although
2012. Great Britain.
somebody else on the chat has said 2013, same track. Actually, I think it might be 2013 because I seem to remember that wasn't that the one that Martin Gosby tried to hand over to Huis and then Huis retired with a disconnection anyway. Right, saying
yeah,
that was last year, wasn't it? So actually, yes,
that was
that might
last.
be the one. So I think we'll find out for definite, but I think that our cameraman may have been beaten by one of our avid viewers.
Well, nice to see that the viewers are paying so much attention. And well, seriously, what an eventful race, though. I mean, so many DNFs. It's really unbelievable. We got 12 cars remaining in this race, and only 16 laps. Calamaze now is pitting.
Our
Where
cameraman
will-
is blaming a typo, by the way, for the reason he got that wrong. We're not having that. You're not taking Rob Van Starkenberg's title of Sherlock Holmes, that's for certain.
No.
Anyway, Calamaze comes back out on the medium tyre again, and he's back out in 5th position, and he now will be definitely, I should imagine, going to the end of the race from there. Simoncic also in the pit lane now for Go Speed.
Yeah, the timing is a little bit messy since Ivar just pitted, but I do think that if Jim can hold out a little bit and then make this tires work until the end, he might get a shot in for 4th or even 3rd. But some things have to happen though, because Rob just pitted, and well, Keithley is going strong as ever. So Keithley, one of those drivers who isn't making any mistakes as well. Maybe that's just the GT Omega racing way to go. Could be. So, and I'm also curious who won the Fantasy League today, because you know, with
Well,
Bono
it could
and,
be anybody, quite frankly.
It could be
We
anybody.
might, to be honest, the way things are going, they might all end up with 0 points. It's been one of those
Yeah.
days.
There's probably one viewer sitting now like, I had it all right. Well, congrats to you in advance. 15
Probably
laps to
picked his
go.
drivers in a raffle rather than anything else. So it's,
Yeah. Okay, David Greco pits as well. Martin Gosby is most likely to pit in the upcoming 2 or 3 laps. And ooh, I hold my breath for a little minute because Gosby was looking rather slow, but it was just looking rather slow. He's still driving on rather fast. And really in control of this race at the moment, Martin Gosby. Definitely a guy that deserves another victory this year. And in the early stages of this race as well, he was the only one that could maintain pace together with David Greco. And after David Greco let him go, he didn't turn back or look back ever again. And now he's driving in the lead with almost 14.5 laps to go.
there's
And
going to be a
fifth-
big party in Sweden tonight as well, because I think Peter
Yeah.
Helmbro is going to get his first points, which he'll be very happy with if he can carry on where he is. He's got to hold off Eros Masciuli, but I think Masciuli's a little way behind him, so it's looking good for Helmbro at the moment. There might be a very big party in Sweden tonight.
You remind me of something, and that's Giuseppe Marconi, who last year in Suzuka with all the DNFs, like we have seen today and already have seen today, he actually scored his first points in like 4 or 5 years, if I remember correctly. However, that's not relevant at the moment with Martin Gosby pitting. Let's see, easy on the pit limiter there, braked well in front of it. And I mean, blame the guy wrong with such an advantage. You don't want to take any risks. So here we go, back on track with a nice, fresh, medium soft tire of a medium tire. 14 laps to go on it, so would basically be a ride in the park for Martin. But that's what we thought about Bono as well. I mean, surely he noticed that Morgan was out of the race, and yeah, I'm sure Bono is just slamming his head through a door right now. And Morgan can breathe rather easily again, but yeah, both Bono and both Morgan really making moves that are unexpected whatsoever.
Well, that's the thing, because it's not that both of them... normally when we've had Moran and Ruiz, I mean, we talked about 2013, that was actually for both of them, it was just things out of their control that made them retire from Silverstone. But here today, we've seen them both retire, and both through mistakes, which is very odd. Helmbro, by the way, has just been passed by Masciuli, so put that champagne on ice, which in Sweden will probably be quite... he's going to have to go back in the fridge, I think, because he's back down to 11th place, unfortunately. So hopefully Peter, although he's just been in the pit, so he will be on newer tyres than Masciuli.
Yeah, Masciuli needs to yet pit again, I believe.
He pitted a couple of laps ago, judging
he did.
lap time. So maybe then, unfortunately, well, it'll be easy enough for them to keep that champagne refrigerated in Sweden. There's plenty of snow up there, so
yeah, you
might
would
have to keep it refrigerated for another couple of weeks.
So let's see, Scooty now the last scoring point position. Ooh, it goes off the track actually, but not severely. So he's able to keep that position in place. Peter Briljak on 9th spot. We haven't seen much of him after that incident. He got back on track on 13th place. He's now on 9th. And well, at least something is going wrong for Twister this race, because everything else is going perfect. So yeah, and we had the smell of Jim Paresis as well, but no DNFs for them.
Actually very quiet around this circuit now. It's probably because there's only 12 cars pounding around.
Yeah,
about 8,000 horsepower down on what we were at the start of the race.
You can almost hear the crickets chirping now. Antonio Coleridge pits again for his final pit stop of today, and I don't think he will rejoin the track for Peter Briljak. No, of course he won't. Peter already crossed him. However, Erbas Mascudi is 1 lap down and it's really out of contention.
Nevertheless, despite what we mentioned earlier, at least the Venus Project Racing team will be keeping their place ahead of Mad Cape in the constructor standings, because both the Mad Capes retiring, unfortunately, when they were in strong positions, because both of them would probably have been in the points come this stage, so it's a real shame for them.
Yeah, they're actually, like Sam Jones just pointed out, they're doubling the points. So it would be a nice scoring day for them, and well, would certainly be a nice scoring day for Twister. But yeah, Rob van Starkenburg driving around in 3rd place. Get that podium home, Rob. Come on.
Yeah, Van Starkenburg, who has developed over recent years. It's been amazing, some of the talent that FSR has produced in recent years up to this World Championship Series. We've seen some drivers progressing their way through the divisions, and that's really how it should work, coming through the ladder and coming into World Championship and then finding their feet and battling for race victories in the case of Martin Gosby. And the amazing thing about Martin Gosby is he's been through all 3 divisions, as Helmbro and Masciuli are battling over the final point.
Oh, this is nice, a battle coming up. But no, Helmbro's still a little bit off.
Yeah, I don't know why they switched places on the timing screens briefly, but it must have been an error.
That's because of the lag of Mascudi. If we could go on board with him, he's sliding all over the track. You would think every corner he's going off because of the lag is so severe. I don't hope it will cause any problem for those two. Yeah. So what
on that last lap, Helmbro was, sorry Chris, Helmbro was half a second faster, so we might see a battle there very shortly.
Yeah, and I want to say that Briljak is one of those examples as well that won a few years ago the World Trophy, and it was as Pro was then called. Last year he won the Ace Series, which was called the World Series by then, and well, he's not going to win the World Championship this year, but who would have thought so at the beginning of the start of the season. Nevertheless, he's doing a fantastic job, Briljak, and always a driver that is up there. and up to pace as well. So we haven't seen the last of him, I'm sure.
No, absolutely. Well, it's been an incredible afternoon so far. We've got 42 of 53 laps complete.
Yeah, and I'm gonna undercut you here because I'm gonna make a prediction, and that is that Rob van Starkenburg will not get this podium for free and actually locks up at the beginning of the 42nd lap. Swallowing my words there. Ivar on the relatively same old tire compound. Only Rob is on the harder compound.
And Helmbro's passed Mashuli into turn 1, so Helmbro back into the points. He can get the champagne out again as he goes back up into 10th place and ahead of Mashuli, and he is now back on for his first point.
Oh, come on, Helmbro, come on, get it home, dude. At the moment, though, Rob van Starkenburg really squeezing every last bit of life out of his tire. His tires are now 8 laps old, and with a lower amount of fuel in the car, I am sure he will be able to finish the race. In what position is yet uncertain, because Ivar is closing up so significantly, and I think he will get a move in after, in the DRS zone even. Van Starkenburg going defensive though, is telling Ivar non-verbally he's not going to get an easy pass here, but yeah, he has to watch out for Ivar, because whether Van Starkenburg likes it or not, yeah, they're clinching the curves. And
that was like monster truck stuff, because they were virtually in the air entirely.
Yeah, indeed. Ivar just following the line. Is he getting a move in on Van Starkenburg? He has his DRS open. The gap is there, but the road just, you know, isn't going straight anymore. So Ivar has to postpone his move onto Rob for the moment.
I'll tell you something, after that chicane, I think that through the vibration of their steering wheels, they're going to have whiplash for weeks. That was incredible over the inside curve there, and Van Starkenburg and Calamet is getting very close, and Paresis, who made that mistake earlier on, but he's not too far behind, and should these two have a bit of a battle, that might put Paresis back in the challenging for the podium as well.
He's going already, he's in there. This lap he will catch them. That's my prediction, to be honest, because Ivar is being, well, held up is not the word. He just can't pass Rob at this moment, and it definitely allows Jim to come closer with 4 or 5 tenths each sector. And it's amazing how Jim is eating away the difference that he had. So, well, he might be able to redeem himself. And Ivar just catching himself out a little bit. It was a little wide, but the gap is around the same as it was last time around. Van Starkenburg here isn't necessary to go defensive into the last chicane. Nevertheless, if Ivar will get a great exit, which he isn't, wow, no, this is not going to happen this lap around either. Rob clearly notices that. Does go defensive a little bit.
I think that was more as precaution than anything else, because Calamet didn't get very close, so keeps that position easily on that. Paresis is still catching them though. He's only 1.3 seconds now behind as Helmbro and Mashuli continue their battle.
Yeah, Paresis had made a little bit of a mistake that last lap, which cost him dearly. You can already see he's just climbing on towards these guys, and I do believe that Jim has the freshest tires of the slot. And look at this, he's just coming towards Ivar, and he joined the group.
Yeah, Mashuli's been in the pits, so Helmbro just needs to finish the race pretty much to guarantee himself that point. So that's great news for him. But Paresis now all over the back of Ivar Calamet. It's Greece versus Estonia. Let's see which one of them is going to come out on top in this battle. And maybe this might just allow Rob van Starkenburg, if these two started battling, to pull away a little bit from them. Although Calamet has now started to pull out on Paresis again. I think he made a little mistake putting him back there. But he now seems to be correcting that a little bit.
I really like Estonia, by the way. In between.
Yeah. For those not following earlier in the season, we had some interesting conversations. Chris was trying to work out what a decent dish was from Estonia, and may have caused some offence to Estonians in the meantime, so he now decided that he loves Estonia.
What offence? No, I didn't have any offence. I am pro Estonia. No, but back to business though. The lap time of Van Starkenburg 35.5, 35.6 for Ivar, 35.1 for Jim. Those are numbers. And
yeah, it's very close, isn't it?
Yeah, in terms of pace, having just read out the last lap times, Jim Paresis takes 4/10 out of Calamees and 5/10 out of Van Starkenburg. Obviously, you would say, well, in 2 laps he's gonna pass. Well, it's not really easy to pass here. Mainly, yeah, it's just twitchy still for Jim. He's trying nevertheless.
Given the way this race has gone, I would imagine that the safe money would be to bet on Jack Keighley to come third. The way things are going.
No, I don't think that will happen, but he might be able to close the gap. We got 8 laps to go.
Well, I was thinking more, but given that every time we seem to have a battle, somebody seems to go off, and all 3 of them go off, and he comes through. But you never know, and hopefully that's not going to happen.
No,
because
but
the idea of 9 finishes is not good.
I mean, the gap between Paresis and Keighley is only 4 or 5 seconds. So if they keep on battling like they do now, in 3 or 4 laps, Jack is catching them. Because Jim is losing time, Ivar is losing time, and all because of this Rob van Starkenburg claiming his podium spot. I do think from all these guys that Rob deserves it the most, since he has gone out of the way quite a lot of times. I do remember China with Bono in the last 3 or 4 laps being 20 seconds behind of Rob, and he made a quick pit stop onto the super soft and actually closed that gap and overtook Rob for the last podium spot in the last lap of the race. So Rob clearly doesn't want to give this away, and there would be no orders for him to go out of the way for Calamees, and clearly not for Jim. So yeah, we got a battle on our hands here for the last remainder of this race.
Yeah, we certainly have. Interestingly, Jack Keighley, who's in 6th place, has never finished. He's done 2 races here in the past, in World Championship at least, and he's finished 3rd and 4th. So this would be his lowest finish to date at this track. He's normally pretty strong round here, Jack Keighley. So watch out for him. He may close down. He's actually got the gap down to 3.2 seconds.
Ooh, Rob is misbreak, outbraking himself, locks up a little bit. Ivar cannot capitalize on that quite yet. Rob lost some momentum, but because Ivar couldn't get on the throttle, he couldn't get the exit he wanted. He's alongside Rob now. He cannot dive the gap because of the nature of the corner. And Jim is just, you know, he has to capitalize on this. But the top speed of the Precision Motorsport car of Ivar is just quite high. Will he do a move here? Will he make a move in? Ivar, however, can make a move on Rob as well. Rob goes defensive on the inside line, makes the car wide perfectly. He actually touches Rob on the rear of the car, not on purpose whatsoever. Remember, Ivar still has damage sustained from Morgan Morant, and if he doesn't, I would be amazed. He got the top speed over Jim. Look at this. Both have DRS open. Jim is diving for the inside. Brilliant move from Jim Paresis and Twister Racing Team. What are we seeing here? I didn't think Jim would be able to maintain that gap. He did, and what a move it was on Ivar.
Certainly was. You could have thrown a blanket over all of them in that period in time. It was incredible how close they were. And Paresis makes a good move, and Calamees gave him plenty of room. Fair play to Ivar. He really did very well there in giving Paresis room. And Paresis now up into 4th place. And that is how you get through turn 1 side by side. There's no doubt about that. And now, can Jim Paresis pass Rob van Starkenburg and get back onto that podium? Don't forget, he spun out of that position just a few laps ago when he went off in the second part of Spoon, so he's trying to get back up there now.
And that's what I wanted to say. I mean, I was just saying a minute ago that I think Rob deserves this podium the most. Jim is like, shut up, Chris. You know, I just spun and I was on 3rd spot, so I deserve this the most. I hope the best is winning. Let's put it like.
Let's hope the best man wins. Yes. Paresis disappears. What's happened? Jim Paresis is off.
No.
Paresis. What is all that about? Right. Okay. There's some serious issues going on here. He's lagging a lot. He's on the grass, and he's now getting back on the track. I don't quite know what happened there. I really don't know what happened. That's very. I can only assume that Paresis has done is something that I've done in the past when I used to have a bad ISP, and sometimes you just pull off the track if you're having a lot of lag to avoid hitting any other drivers, as sort of like a, you know,
Yeah, but
being
this is just
kind to the other
unfortunate.
drivers, and that's why he's maybe gone down to 6th. It didn't look like he was running wide, so that's the only thing I can think has happened.
No, indeed, in the as we see a replay, yeah, it's just the lag and the definitely something with his ISP. But how unfortunate is this for the Greek drive? Nevertheless, it does.
By the way,
give...
Jack Keighley's only 1.2 seconds behind Calamise.
Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, he can jump them, or he can jump them. That's not the right formulation. He can catch up to them. And they did have some severe battles. Rob van Starkenburg did lock up here 1 or 2 laps ago, and easy on the exit, Rob. He's losing a lot of traction, a lot of momentum. Nevertheless, he's still in 3rd place. He can still decide the racing line. He has done a superb job in defending at the moment, and it's all in his best favor, and of GT Omega, of course, that he keeps this state of mind and keeps this podium spot. Jack Keighley still got some catching up to do. 2-second gap now between Ivar and him. And Paris is, he has to throw the towel in the ring, but that's not something you.
Well, he's still on for 8 points.
Yeah, but that's like a
up.
second prize for him. He spun around in Spoon, and now he has, well, sort of a half disconnect. Let's put it like that. And
sorry, Chris Calamise is up behind Van Starkenburg again, and he's having a look down into turn 1. He doesn't make the move stick this time around, but he's really caught up again. And Calamise has got pace, hasn't he? There's no doubt Paris has had more pace than either of them, but unfortunately forget that now, because he's 14 seconds back down the road after that incident, and that means that with 4 laps to go, he's not going to catch them.
Yeah, and I'm sure Van Starkenburg would admit after the race that Ivar was so much quicker the last 15-20 laps. But he only has 4 laps remaining, or 3.5 laps actually remaining, in order to catch this fast Dutch guy. Because, getting Blair Disley there onto the grass. Getting towards the driver is one thing. Passing is a completely other business, and definitely with this track at the moment. So
Blair Disley is the definition of going the extra mile to help the front contenders, isn't he? He just drives. He'll drive around whichever part of the circuit is necessary to get out of their way. It's great.
Yeah, well, at least he's taking the blue flag extra serious indeed, and he would never be the guy that creates a wow moment. It's Martin Gosby leading steadily, already going into the first corner of this track, whilst Rob and Ivar are going to the 130R. One of the most beautiful corners ever made, in my opinion. But
yeah, definitely. One of the corners where you really have to... so many of the corners around this Suzuka circuit, to be honest, are pretty high up there because of the nature of them, the sheer bravery that you have to have as a driver to take them at full speed, as Gosby goes through one of those in Degner 1. That's another of the great corners on the calendar, there's no doubt about it.
And of course, the next FSR race is in 2 weeks, I believe, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah,
that will be the championship decider. We're going right down to the wire.
On the rip of Suzuka, a little bit of Silverstone, a little bit of everything in the circuit of the Americas, where Thiel could just, put
I guess he's
the
basically trying to create a super track, a bit like a super group in music.
Yeah, well, he's not a super designer. Seriously, Thielke, stop designing tracks.
Well,
however,
technically, couldn't he be done for plagiarism?
But to be honest, Malaysia and Turkey,
off another circuit.
Malaysia and Turkey are really nice tracks to drive, I must say. Nevertheless, Rob is still defending it heavily from Ivar, and Jack cannot help his teammate out quite just yet. Jack is in 5th spot now because of that, fortunate half DC from Jim, but he doesn't seem to be catching Ivar and Rob. So Rob really has to do this on his own, and he's going defensive from the left to the right up towards the 130R. And he really has to hope that Ivar can not find a good exit out of the chicane. Ivar braking so late here, so late, and again not completely confident on the exit. And I do think it might have been the damage in the car of Ivar, mind you, without any damage. I mean, he's driving a superb race, Ivar. Getting a podium home with such a severely damaged car would be an outstanding performance for him. However, Rob van Starkenburg clearly would think otherwise. He wants this podium all for himself, and that's good.
Yeah, it's been an astonishing race today, hasn't it? 2 laps to go then, and I think we all need to lie down after this. Calame's in 4th place. Can he overtake Van Starkenburg? He's running out of time. He's only got 1.5 laps to go, pretty much, and he just needs to find some space. He can't seem to find a gap at the moment. Van Starkenburg's covering everything off and just making sure that he hasn't got any space to go into, and that means that Calame's at the moment is going to be stuck with 4th position. That's still a decent result, but you know, it does mean a whole lot more if you get a podium.
Of course, and as you just said, that Martin Gosby is starting the last lap of the race, while these drivers are coming out of spoon. Rolf van Starkenburg goes wide onto the track. Oh, don't play with our hearts, Rob. Just, you know, drive on, stay on the track, and get this car home. And I do think GT Omega would be really pleased. He has to defend once more, though. Late braking from Ivo.
Oh, he's out of control. He's run wide.
He's almost
going to be the chance for Calame's.
Magnificently, he held it on the track, and Calame is not in the position to overtake him because of the braking. However, last lap of the race, are we seeing a Raikkonen and Fisichella here for the last podium spot? Ivo on the outside, Rob on the inside. What is gonna happen? Rob is still on the inside, Ivo on the outside, and Ivo takes him. Rob comes back on the cross, and Ivo takes him yet again because of the exit speed of Rob. How unfortunate.
Yeah, that was a great move from Calame's. Keithley's in the pits on the last lap. That's odd. That's a very strange decision. He's dropping down the order as a result, and that's pushed Paris up to 5th, Simoncic to 6th, Burliak 7th. Keithley has now come out again. His tyres must not have made it to the end because he has come back out of the pits after a fairly normal stop. So obviously the tyres just ran out of life.
But Rolf van Starkenburg here losing the podium in this last lap. I mean, this is just so unfortunate. However, here comes the winner indeed of the race.
Martin Gosby out of the Casio Triangle chicane. It's been a great drive from him, and whilst others have fallen by the wayside, he has driven a near perfect race. Martin Gosby wins in Suzuka, and David Greco will come through in 2nd place. We're going to have to wait a while though, because he dropped 16.1 seconds behind in the end. But a great drive from Martin Gosby, and believe it or not, that was only 1 hour and 26 minutes long. It seemed there was so much action packed into it. But Greco now comes across the line in 2nd place. And Calame's, I think, will get 3rd. Van Starkenburg's dropped too far back now. So that is a great win for Martin Gosby. He's 2nd of the year, of course. He won in Imola as well a lot earlier in the year in San Marino. So that's Martin Gosby's 2nd victory of the year. And he has really come of age this year and shown that he is a real contender up with the big boys, considered one of the aliens now. Yeah,
certainly. Up there with Ron Squire. No. Coming back to that earlier joke.
Yes.
No, but Ivar Calame's, what have you shown us? That sheer determination. But also what's clear was the respect. The mutual respect between Ivar and Rob. Letting each other live there. And that was really nice to see. I do think Rob can live with that. Although he would be rather frustrated of not getting the podium. He did a fantastic job. So did the Twister Racing car of Martin Gosby. So did the Twister Racing car with David Greco. And what a podium it has been. So, and that was some race.
9th in the end.
Yeah, and Peter Helmbro from the Avid Conic Racing team. He got P10.
So Jack Keithley's pit stop on the last lap then really costing him. I don't know why he came in. It's very oddly, the timing screens are listing him as 3 minutes and 23. He got a stop and go apparently.
Thanks to cheaters, he says. Awesome. Okay.
Not sure why he would get a stop and go for cheaters. I don't understand how.
No,
anyway,
same
we'll
here.
come
But
back to that.
that's our his literal. Those are literally his words. So.
Yeah, very odd. We'll find out more about that if we can before we go off air. Although it won't be long before we do. So you may have to look that up on the forums later on. But what an action-packed race! We saw everything today, and only 12 cars getting to the finish, Chris.
Yeah, and what we didn't see today was Morgan Morant and Bono Huis scoring points. If you're watching now and are feeling sore about me saying that, that's really, unfortunate. But nothing changed in terms of the championship, and everything is open. So we got a championship deciding race next in 2 weeks' time, and this is just amazing.
Yeah, it is, and Morgan Moran needs to come second in 2 weeks' time at the Circuit of the Americas to wrap up the title. As long as he's in the top two, he wins the championship. But it is so close. There's only 10 points between them, and well, it is going down to the wire. So it's definitely one you want to be here for. Congratulations to Martin Gosby, David Greco, and Ivar Calames for first, second, and third. That was an excellent result by them. Peter Helmbro as well, we're going to give a shout out to as well at the end of this, because he got his first point today, and that is going to be fantastic for him. He's going to really enjoy that. And well, thanks for joining me again, Chris, this afternoon. We definitely needed two of us to describe all the action today.
Yeah. Well, I think since you were absent last week, I should be thankful to you that you are joining us again.
Yeah, you're sweating a bit less.
No, it was pretty good fun last week, but no, happy you're back. And we will see you guys back in 2 weeks, aren't we, Thomas?
We will indeed, and that will be for the Circuit of the Americas, the first time that FSR has been there, and with the championship showdown at stake, you really don't want to miss that one. See you in 2 weeks' time.